The night falls like ink on the skyscrapers in Shanghai, and neon lights twist into ghostly shadows in the rain. This near-future city in 2028 is a high-tech paradise, an unmanned machine buzzing the sky, the intelligent monitoring eyes on the street are as dense as stars, and AI's visuals are hidden in every corner. But tonight, everything changed. The news of the virus outbreak was like wildfire, and the social media was filled with panic screams. Some people coughed, some people fell to the ground, and there seemed to be an invisible poisonous fog in the air. On the street, the crowds were scattered like shocked fish, and the breathing sounds under the masks were mixed with the harsh long sirens. The ceiling order was just off, and it was half a beat late. The supermarket was looted, and the underground station was covered with pushing faces, and the rain hit their raincoats, rippling mud. Li Qiang stood in front of the window of his apartment, staring at the chaotic area outside the window. His fingers hit the glass lightly, and the rhythm was as rapid as a heartbeat. At the age of 30, he always has this model. His thin figure is wrapped in a dark sweater, his eyes are hidden behind the ink lens, like a shadow that is never sociable. As a freelance detective, he became accustomed to going alone, relying on his eyes that captured the details in an instant, and cracked countless urban cases. But tonight, the flashes in these eyes not only the professional light, but also the hidden anxiety. His wife and young daughter were infected with the virus while shopping in the city center 3 days ago. Now, they are lying in the isolation ward, and through the video lens, Li Qiang's throat is tightened. "Dad, I really want to eat the sweet and sour pork ribs you made." The daughter's voice was still rumbling around her ears, like a thorn, piercing into his never-easy heart. When the phone vibrates, it is a strange number. Li Qiang picked up his eyebrows and a low male voice came from his head. "Mr. Li Qiang? I am Jian Payne, a special investigation team. The government needs you, now. The source of the virus is unknown. Our monitoring system has caught some abnormalities, but no one can tell. 10 minutes later, see it at Pudong Airport." Li Qiang didn't ask much, he grabbed his coat and ran out. The rain hits the face, as cold as a sting. He opened the old electric car and shuttled through the closed street. After the roadblock, the armed police stood with guns, and the red light of the unmanned swept over each face. The city's struggle is weakening, and the air is filled with the pungent smell of disinfectant, and the crying from afar is scattered. This feeling reminded Li Qiang of the days when he was chasing thieves in the alley when he was a child. At that time, he was just a hairy boy who loved every piece of bricks. Unexpectedly, these eyes would become his golden finger and make him a legend in the world of exploring the world. The expensive access channel at Pudong Airport has been cleared, leaving only Jian Payne and others there. He was a powerful middle-aged man, with the badge on his police uniform flashing coldly and his eyebrows were tightly locked, like a block of iron plates wet by rain. "Li Qiang? I heard of you. You solved those black market smuggling cases, right?" Jian Payne stretched out his hand and held it hard, as if he was trying. Li Qiang pointed his head, took off the ink lens, and glanced his eyes over the surroundings, the door of the passage as much as possible, a scratch on the floor, and the coffee mat on the Jian Payne port. "Yes. But this time it's not smuggling, it's a virus. Tell the situation." Jian Payne led him into a temporary room, with lights dimly lit in it, and several giant screen walls rolled up the monitoring screen. The air is hot, and the smell of coffee and sweat is irritated. The other members of the investigation group, a few scientists and data analysts in white coats, looked up at him, with doubts and fatigue in their eyes. "The virus began to break out last Friday," Jian Payne said, pointing at the screen. "First, there were sporadic cases, concentrated in the business district on the Huangpu River. Now, 500 cases have been confirmed in the city, with a mortality rate of 20%. Our AI system scanned thousands of hours of recordings, but nothing was found. Only these." He clicked a picture: bustling streets, crowds were pushing with masks, and the background was the high-profile Shijiazui building. Li Qiang pulled over the chair and sat down, his eyes locked in the screen. "Set up at full speed and start 2 hours before the explosion. All angles." Jian Payne was stunned. "Full speed? This is hundreds of hours of material, are you sure? Okay. Li Qiang's voice was calm, with unquestionable profits. He leaned back, with his hands intertwined, and his brain was like a high-speed machine, ready to capture everything. The picture is flying forward, the streets reflected lights after the rain, and pedestrians moved like horns. Scientists talked about private words, and someone said in a low voice, "Does this guy really think he is Superman?" Jianping patted the table. "It's better to show him than to guess." As time passed, Li Qiang's eyes did not blink, as if an infinitely slim lens was hidden in his pupils. This is his golden finger, the extraordinary visual memory, which has become different from ordinary people since childhood. He could remember every fold on a piece of paper, every detail of a piece of video. The picture flashes over a street corner. In the crowd, a man wearing a mask flashes over. His cuffs were brushed over the road lights, leaving a few unseen marks. Ordinary people will ignore it, but Li Qiang's brain is frozen in an instant. It is not a casual touch, it is deliberate. The finger marks are pressed like spirals, and there is a slight oily reflection on the edges. "Stop!" Li Qiang suddenly whispered, and the screen was frozen. The air in the room was scattered, and everyone turned to look at him. "What?" Jianping approached. "Is this a passerby?" "Masks and raincoats, all of them are like this." Li Qiang pointed his finger at the screen and enlarged the mark. "Not a passerby. Look at the mark on the cuffs here, that's the edge of the laboratory protective clothing. The material is nanofiber and only has a specific organization. The finger marks are fresh, and the rainwater has not completely blown away. Timestamp, 15 minutes before the explosion. This is not a coincidence, it is human-made marks." The scientists exploded, and a young analyst widened his eyes. "How did you see?" "We used AI to swipe it 10 times, and there was nothing." Li Qiang smiled slightly, and a flash of self-deprecating in his eyes. "AI see details, I see the skeleton. From the beginning to the end, I remembered every trick." The man was 1.78 meters tall, with a slight limp in his steps, and his right foot, maybe an old injury. There was a white shadow on his chin on the mask, about 50 years old. He went from the experiment area around the river to avoid the blind area of the main monitoring. This virus did not explode naturally, but someone deliberately left his tail. Jianping's face changed, and he turned from suspicion to shock. He patted Li Qiang's shoulder and his strength was heavier. "Boy, your eyes are worth it. The investigation team needs you. Immediately block the street corner and send a pharmacist team to get the finger marks." Li Qiang stood up and flashed his wife and daughter's faces in the sea of his brain. At that moment, he felt the weight on his shoulders increase. He is no longer a lonely detective, chasing the shadow of small cases. Now, he has taken on the fate of the entire city. Deep inside, a warm current surged up. Responsibility, like the sunlight after the rain, piercing the lonely cloud layer. "It's not just a lock," he said, sounding, "I'll go by myself. Jianping, give me a pass." This line points to the deserted area on the Huangpu River, which has map marks. "We can't wait." Jianping hesitated for a second, then pointed, "Okay. But be careful, the city is about to get into trouble. The sealing order is upgraded, and the entire area is curfew. There is already violence outside." Li Qiang pushed the door open, and the rain fell again, scattering the sirens and intimate guns from far away. The neon lights of the city were blurred in the water. He took a deep breath of the cold air and walked into the night. The spiral of the finger mark, like a whirlpool, pulls him towards the unknown purity. The virus's low words are rumbling around the ears, waiting for him to unveil. Terms, 1287. The rain was like a broken bead, hitting Li Qiang's electric car glass, blurring the road lights ahead. He accelerated through the sealed wire, and the pass was flashed green under the scan of the unmanned machine. The deserted area on the Huangpu River has become a ghost town. The high-pitched containers are piled like silent tombstones. The river wind is surrounded by the fishy smell and rotten atmosphere, and the whistle of the ships far away is low, like the morning sign of the city. The warning lights flashed in the dark, and the shadow of the armed police pulled the guns to the point of any suspicious static. Li Qiang stopped his car and walked towards the roadblock while stepping on the muddy ground. A young armed policeman shot forward and said, "Passage. This area has been cleared and infected people may be discharged at any time. Jianping sent me to take the finger mark." Li Qiang submitted the certificate and his eyes swept across the street corner behind the roadblock. On the road lights there, the rain had dimmed the marks, but in his visual memory, it was as clear as yesterday, spiral pressure marks, oily reflections on the edges, like hidden finger marks. Armed police head, "Release it." Li Qiang put on gloves, squatted down, and scanned with ultraviolet lights. The traces appear, twisted into unique patterns under the blue light. "Compare right now," he murmured, grabbing the sample and stuffing it into the certificate bag. The mobile phone was hit, and it was Jianping. "Li Qiang, got the picture? Go back to the room, we have a new partner, Aerospace, a data genius. Don't waste time, this virus spreads faster than expected." Li Qiang turned around and Jiang Feng blew his hair, and his wife's face couldn't help but appear in the sea of his brain. She fell on the living room floor, and her breathing sound when she coughed was like a blade striking her heart. The little daughter cried and looked desperately through the glass of the ward. At that moment, he held the direction plate tightly and his fingers turned white. "I can't wait anymore. This city and this family are waiting for him to tear the truth." Since then, he always had a separate relationship, patted his butt and left after solving the case. Now, this responsibility is like an iron, locking his loneliness, making him feel for the first time that the extra weight on his shoulders is actually a kind of strength. In the room, the air became even more gratifying. The blue light on the screen reflected on the faces of the people, exhausted like a ghost. Jianping introduced, "Yaong, this is Li Qiang." Yaong is the hacker we dug up and specializes in data confusion. As Aerospace turned around, a young man in his 20s wore thick-framed glasses and a string of crickets printed on his t-shirt, like his second-level skin. He stretched out his hand and held it loosely and felt the heat. "If you hear your eyes are bad, my brain is okay. Come and sit here. I have already pre-treated the data, but you still have to show you the way." Li Qiang sat down, and the chair squeaked, like an old friend's breath. He sent his finger pattern to Jianping. "First compare this thing. Aerospace, pull out the map slats and spread them half a 5 kilometer from the corner of the street. Monitor blind areas, underground rails, and all suspicious points." Astronaut knocked on the keyboard, and the speed hit the window as rained. His gold finger, extraordinary data processing ability, can simulate quantum calculations in the brain from a young age, allowing TB-level information to filter in an instant, like throwing the sea into the sea and sucking only clean water. He grinned and said, "Brother, what you want? The AI has swept 10 times and I will get it in 5 minutes. Look at this." On the screen, Shanghai map is open, like a lively website. Red points mark the infected hot area, and the blue line is the monitoring path. Aerospace dances with fingers, unblocks the hidden layer, a string of encrypted data appears, like a skeleton exposed in a fog. "Ha! Found it. These tags are not random. Look, the corner finger points connect here, a hidden road, over the main monitoring, and head straight to the old industrial district in Pudong. The warehouse group was abandoned, no one has been in charge for 10 years, but the shadow of the old laboratory is hidden on the map. Illegal experiment? The source of the virus is 80% there." Li Qiang leaned closer, his eyes locked the line, he bent like a snake, avoiding all hot spots, and the end was a gray square, marked as a forbidden area. Illegal experiment. Who fucked? Jianping compares finger marks, now. Jianping point, contact the law doctor, the sample has been uploaded. Preliminary match, Ma Chao, 50 years old, bioengineer, former government laboratory employee. He worked as a post last year, and his conduct was unknown. But wait. He browed and said in a low voice, "There is resistance inside. There are people pressing on the high level, and I don't want to dig deeper. I'll give you official resources, but be careful, there may be eye lines in the investigation group." Li Qiang's heart sank, but his surface was calm. He patted Yu Hang on the shoulder. Good. This line made us move from blindly turning into a direction. We formed a team and dived into the industrial area. When we were on action tonight, 3 teams, me, you, 2 armed police. Giant Pain, provide the equipment. Astronaut pushed the lens and took a tight look. I go to the battlefield? Okay, brother, I not only knock on the keyboard, but also shoot, virtual. But really gun, hey, try it. His words were light and fast, like a young man's sarcasm, which relieved the pressure in the room. Li Qiang smiled and said, take a tacit understanding, keep up with my rhythm. You filter the data, I grab the details. It's like a double dance, a head, and a follow. The night became darker, and they opened their modified off-road cars and walked through the sealed area. Outside the car window, the city's movement was almost collapsed. There was a flash of fire everywhere. Someone set fire to scatter, the smell of burnt plastic and intimate blood in the air. At the entrance of the industrial area, the iron slugs are spotty, and when the wind blows, it makes a whistle like ghosts. The team got off the car, the armed police were gunning in front, Li Qiang and the aerospace palace behind. The flashlight beam cuts into the darkness, illuminating the broken glass on the ground and the scattered medical wastes, tubes and masks, and then press them on and click. Keep calm, Li Qiang said softly, his eyes swept around. On the wall of the warehouse, in the cracks crawling with vines, there was a flash of green light. Aerospace, skin hot sources. Astronaut opened the equipment on his palm, and the screen flashed, 3 hot spots, 50 meters away. Not a human, infected person. The movement speed is not right, like a wild dog. The voice fell, and 3 figures appeared in the shadows, the once infected person of the worker, with gray skin, red eyes as red as blood, and a moist roar in his mouth. They came, twisting their movements, and their claws gripped like scraping irons. The armed policeman in the head opened his gun and rubbed his first shoulder. The blood fog was sprayed and the fishy smell smeared his nose. Scatter! Li Qiang shouted, and the brain replayed the prediction in an instant. The first infected person had a limp on his right leg, and the attack path was a straight line. The second one was slid from the left side, and the height was 1.5 meters. Behind the third hall, the speed was slow but the force was high. His visual memory is like a slow lens, capturing every muscle pump. Yaong, the one on the left, shoot your legs. The spacecraft gun was shot without hesitation, received. As soon as the gun hit, the infected person fell to the ground with a shattered bone and a rumbling sound. Li Qiang flashed his body to avoid the first strike, and hit his knee with a gun, and heard the slight and bone cracks. During the war, he glanced at the infected person's arm. A blue mark flashed with a Nami ink tattoo, which was shaped like a test number, matching the hidden layer of the map. Look at this mark. They are trial products, not random infections. The virus is artificial. The second infected person rose. Li Qiang was hanging on the ground, mud and covered in windy clothes. He shot his backhand and hit the center, and the blood sprayed on his face, sticking to the warmth. The crisis resolved, and the team stood calmly. Yu Hang wiped his sweat and his eyes were shiny. Brother, your prediction is amazing. My data is not white, this mark proves that it is true. The first level of the thread, illegal experiment, Ma Chao's hand. Li Qiang gasped, stood up straight, feeling the shackles in his heart relaxed. From now on, he was always an observer, hiding in the dark. Now, he was led by people and dared to be like a sword. This growth is not overnight, but the tempering of every crisis, which has transformed him from a shadow into a light tower. Good cooperation. We will bear the resistance, that Giant Pain said. Keep moving forward, that warehouse is the key. They pushed a door open, and the air was damp and the musty smell was pungent with chemical medicine. The flashlight swept over and shone out the iron ladder at the corner of the wall and led to the ground. At the entrance of the ladder, a card sign with a yellow lens can be seen, Bioengineering Laboratory, no entry. His heartbeat accelerated, and Li Qiang stepped into the first level. The darkness was like a giant beast's mouth, swallowing their figures. Underground, the low buzzer is hidden, like a virus's movement, waiting to wake up. The iron ladder squeaked protests under Li Qiang's foot, and every step seemed to be stepping on a rotten bone. The air in the basement became heavier, and the damp musty smell smeared the acidity of chemical drugs, like Chinyen poisons that flocked in the lungs. The flashlight beam cuts into the darkness, illuminating the stained wall. Under the falling paint, the biosafety level 4 mark appears, and cracked chains are hanging on the scattered doors of the iron lens. The armed police team stayed on the ground to guard the situation, and Li Qiang and Aerospace went deeper independently. This was Li Qiang's idea. It was too narrow and there were too many unknown variables, and many people would only cause trouble. "This place is like a tomb," complained in a low voice, the sound roaring in the empty corridor, and the equipment on the palms in their hands emitted a faint blue light. "The heat source is clean, but the particles in the air are dense, which may be a virus. Brother, wear a mask and don't be heroes." Li Qiang pointed his head and breathed heavily under the mask. He pushed open a half-closed door, and there was a spacious laboratory. The long table was covered with dust, the tube frame was obliquely tilted, the glass inside shattered, and the remaining liquid dried up into dark red crystals. The center of the center is connected to the electric wire, and the buzzing sound comes from there, as deep as the heart's rest. The cold storage cabinet on the wall is half open, the sample box inside is scattered all over the ground, and the vague words on the label read V28 variants. Li Qiang's eyes swept through everything, and his visual memory was flooded like a flood. The location of every crack and every ash was frozen in his brain, and it was curled into a three-dimensional painting. "Look at this." Li Qiang squatted down, pointing to a dry and dirty beach on the floor, which felt sticky, and even with gloves, he made his eyebrows look. Blood is not a random erosion. It looks like a spray, and the source is the operating table. Imagine, a scientist is adjusting the sample, his hands shake, and he is ejaculated. It is not an accident, it is a synthesis. Looking at these devices, the model of the gene editor is military level, and there will be no civilian laboratory. As the spacecraft approaches, knocks on the equipment, the data supports you. I quickly analyze the protein sequences left in the air. Oh, this virus is not a natural sudden change. Artificial marks, like to enhance contagious design. Who is the one who fucked? The government ghost? Li Qiang stood up and the simulation reappeared in the brain, the picture unfolded like a movie. He sees the night of the accident. The lights in the experiment room were dazzling. A figure was busy in front of the operating table, wearing a protective mask, and the syringe in his hand was flashing blue. Suddenly, the alarm rose, the glass shattered, and the green fog spread. The man fled in panic, leaving a string of footprints, and his right foot was slightly limp. The visual memory enlarges the details. The nanofiber on the cuffs matches the street corner marks. "Man is synthesis," Li Qiang murmured, with a cold and exciting voice in his voice. "What is the purpose? Biological weapons? Or bigger? We need to find evidence." They acted separately. Astronaut scanned data at the end, and Li Qiang checked the cabinet at the edge. His fingers touched a keyboard, and the dust flew away. Li Qiang's eyes caught the fingers on the keyboard and left, the clean lines, with oily edges on the edge, and it seemed like a ball of it appeared on the corner of the street. "Finger marks, this is the key," he whispered, illuminating with ultraviolet lights, and the marks appeared. In the brain, the memory database is automatically matched. Pull out thousands of records from Jianping's database. Level 1, exclude common types, spiral shape, right thumb. Level 2, match missed personnel, 50-year-old male, bioengineering background. Level 3, cross-verification tracking, a test room employee who worked as a member of the last year. The picture is locked. Ma Chao, the man in the photo, with a grayish-white beard and a deep eyes. "Ma Chao," Li Qiang said his name, as if he was breathing a sigh of relief. "Suspect. These fingerprints are his, the target of the accident, or perhaps the initiator." Astronaut turned around, his eyes lit up. "Locked? So cool. I send it to Jianping for verification." I continued to dig. "Wait, there is an encryption layer at the end, an old quantum lock. Give me 2 minutes." Just then, The room was shocked. The machine under the floor was touching. Li Qiang's feet were unintentionally stepping on a piece of loose porcelain brick. The warning was harsh and the red lights spread like blood. The wall cracked and the laser net shot from the ceiling, as if the wire was deadly, and the air was burning. The first laser wiped Li Qiang's shoulders, and his sweatshirt was smoky, making his skin red. "Train," he shouted, swaying to the side, his brain flashing through the prediction. The laser path is a network, covering the entire room with a distance of 0.5 seconds. After the aerospace rolled to the control panel, its face turned white and sweat beads slipped off the lens. Laser protection system, automatic touching. This place is still alive. He danced with his fingers, plugged in a self-made decoder, and the code on the screen was like a waterfall. In the crisis, his golden fingers showed power. In the brain, there were thousands of cracking paths, filtering the noise, and locking the back door. "Don't, guys. I'm using it. Found it, use a power line. Close the sequence and enter." As the laser approached, Li Qiang's heart beat like a drum. Deep inside, the old sun was in full swing. 5 years ago, in a smuggling case, he fell into the warehouse alone, ignoring the warning from his partner, causing his death in the middle of the line. The rain that night was mixed with blood and was always engraved in his brain. He always thought he was safe alone and changed into lonely regret. Now, aerospace is around you, and trust is tightened by fine lines. "Aerospace, hold on," he shouted, not an order, but an encouragement. He was afraid of turning around in his chest, but he pushed it. He couldn't repeat it again. This time, he learned to rely on his teammates. "It's done!" Yuhang shouted, and the laser network flashed and ended abruptly. The room was silent again, leaving only the sound of the buzzing bird. He gasped and grinned. The crisis will change. Before the system collapsed, I extracted the record, the experiment journal, the full set. V28 is Ma Chao's project, synthesized viruses, used for urban control test. With a high-level signature, giant pain, it's so troublesome. Li Qiang got up and patted his back. The force was a little heavier, just like the brother's affirmation. "Fuck well. Your brain saved us." When my heart warmed, the old scar seemed to fade. His transformation from a solitary wolf into a leader was not achieved overnight, but his choice at this moment, the trust team, is the real power. His fingers were still shaking, but he clenched his fists, and he might turn into a decisive heart. He immediately told Giant Pain's message, "Finger marks are in line, Ma Chao. Verification is true, now." Giant Pain's voice came from the noise, and was as quick as a trend. I received the sample scan. The match was 99.7%. Ma Chao, who worked in a national laboratory last year, was suspected of retrieving the sample. But the internal file was deleted, as if someone was wiping his butt. He hid his place and pointed to Pudong Old Port and sent support immediately. "But Li Qiang, be careful, this is not a single thing, there is a big fish behind it." "I understand." Li Qiang shut up, his eyes swept across the diary screen. Ma Chao's signature is twisted like a snake, recording the hidden email links, pointing to higher levels of chant. The virus is not an accident, it is a piece of the power game. They grabbed the data chips and evacuated the laboratory. The ladder was rushing, dusty and coughing sounds blew behind the mask. When I was pushed out of the warehouse, the night wind came towards me, and the fishy smell of the river was scattered. The armed police team merged, the lights pierced the darkness, and they jumped onto the off-road car, crushed the mud with their tires, and left the ghost town. The car just drove out of the industrial area, and the mobile phone vibrated. Anonymous message, with red words on the screen, "Stop, Detective Li, otherwise, your family will leave first." Li Qiang's heart sank and he held the direction plate tightly. The silhouette of the slightest wheel is clear, like a giant beast floating in the river fog, opening a bloody mouth. Astronaut glanced at the message, his face turned red. "Who? Ma Chao's subordinate?" No matter who, Li Qiang was slowing forward, and the city's lights twisted ahead. We continue to dig. The truth is on the next level. Outside the car window, the sirens in the closed area seemed to be close to each other. The off-road car engine growled, tearing the sealed area under the night sky, and the tires splashed on the slippery asphalt road. The lights in the city center of Shanghai are still bright, but the light is now like a mask, covering the corruption below. Li Qiang held the direction plate tightly, staring at the roadblock in front of him, and rumbling the anonymous message in the sea of brain, "Stop, Detective Li, otherwise, your family will leave first." The threat was like ice rays, piercing into his heart, but he didn't let it go. The deputy's aerospace was buried in his palm equipment, and the blue light on the screen made his face turn white, and the sound of knocking sounded like rain. The threat comes too fast. Li Qiang opened his mouth, his voice low, scattering the engine's wings. Ma Chao is not a lone wolf, someone is holding his waist. Giant pain, let me monitor the back door of the general network to access. Aerospace, you filter the map data first, and we lock his route. In the communication device, Giant Pain's voice sandbag, the background refers to the noise of the room. The back door has been opened, but be careful, the system has abnormal flow. The high-level pressure is under pressure, and we don't have much time. The police team moved into the city center within 10 minutes, surrounding the operation and in place. Astronaut pushed the lens and looked alert. "Brother, I've dug the map layer deep. Those tags are not single points, look." He turned over the equipment, and the Shanghai map on the screen was open like a spider network, and the red lines connected into a dense network, which shone from the Huangpu River to the high-rise buildings in the city center, and then extended to the secret points of the suburbs. This is a system. The old experiment room is just a date, and the virus is divided into lines like a supply chain. In the city center, the high-tech apartment area Xingaju has an abnormal heat source on the top, matching Ma Chao's physical characteristics, 50 years old, slightly limp. There are many blind areas to monitor, which is suitable for hiding. Li Qiang glanced at him and captured the memory in an instant. The angle of the red line and the coordinates of each node were transformed into a physical path in his brain. Xinghe lives, 15th floor on the top. Ma Chao's escape route from the industrial area, he would go through the Donghai Tunnel and go straight to the city center. He pulled me out of all the roadside monitoring and started half an hour ago. Aerospace dances with fingers, and the data flows like a flood, full-speed play. The abnormality of AI tags, a black unmanned taxi for rent, the car sign is blurry, but the wheels match. Look here, when the shifting, the driver has a shadow, gray, slightly oblique right shoulder, and a limp mark. The picture slowly appeared in Li Qiang's eyes. In the rain, the car slid across the intersection, and the window reflected the face of the moment. He freezes the memory, the curve of the beard, the shadow of the eyebrow bone, and the photos of Ma Chao in the database are 99%. It's him. Acceleration, aerospace, predict the blind area, east side of Nanjing Road pedestrian street, the signal tower. The car turned into the city center, with sparse crowds on the streets, and the eyes under the mask were full of suspicion. The locking order made the air coagulate, and the advertising screens far away were still playing government announcements, "Keep calm and the virus is controllable." But the sluts on the corner of the street, "The truth is at the bottom of the river," mocked everything. Li Qiang's electric car was converted into a borrowed police SUV, with a police light flashing, and forced the roadblock to open. Suddenly, a thunderous moment ahead, a young woman pushing the crowd on the street, her raincoat was wet, holding a backpack in her hand, her face as white as paper. She fell to the ground, and her backpack came out of several empty bottles and rolled into the water. "Stop!" Li Qiang stepped on the car and shook his body. Aerospace grabbed the handrail. "What's the situation?" "The infected person?" "No, it's the eyewitness." Li Qiang got off the car, and the rain hit the top. He quickly stepped forward and helped the woman up. Her eyes were red and her breathing was rapid, and the mask slid to her chin, revealing her white lips. "Miss, are you okay?" "We are from the investigation team. I am Li Qiang." "In this world, don't show off." The woman was stunned and wiped the rain and stains on her face. My name is Xiao. I just came out of the supermarket and heard that the source of the virus was being investigated." I saw it." Last Friday, in the alley on the river, a man dropped a metal container, and green mist appeared. He wore a mask, but walked limply, like a scientist. I was scared and ran home, but I kept trying to say it. What about Wani? Li Qiang's heartbeat missed. In the visual memory, Ma Chao's images coincide with her description: limp, metal container, virus load. To be more specific. How tall is that man? What is the container? Is there a tag? Xia Yan took a deep breath, and his voice was shaking and determined. About 1.78 meters, 50 years old, gray. The container was a silver suitcase with blue bars on the surface, like a test script. When he abandoned it, the box cracked and the green fog was scattered, and people nearby coughed immediately. I hid behind the trash can and saw clearly the box was engraved with V28, just like the map mark. He murmured, "The accident happened, the high level will be dealt with." Then he ran away. Astronauts came up and down from the car, the recording equipment was opened. V28? This is the key. Xiaoyu, come with us and record the certificate in a safe place. Giant pain, this is a turnaround. Li Qiang helped her get on the car, and a warm current surged in her heart. Since then, he has always suspected the targeted person, memory deviation and panic creation. But Xia Yan's eyes were as clear as the rain, which made him feel the weight of trust for the first time. It's not a cold thread, but a living story. At this moment, he grew from a pure observer to a listener, with empathy like a vine, surrounding his loneliness. Thank you, Xiaoyu. Your words have saved many people. He said lightly, patting her on the shoulder, feeling that the responsibility on her shoulder was lighter, which was even more realistic. The car restarted and headed straight to Xingaju. Apartments like silver-colored towers stand in the city center, with neon lights reflected in the glass curtain wall, and door security robots scan every face. The police team has arrived, and Giant Pain pointed out in the communication, including the top layer, the elevator is blocked. Be careful, Ma Chao may have an internal response. They entered the lobby, and the air was filled with a high fragrance, which could not hide the hidden smell of disinfectant water. The elevator rose to the 15th floor. When the door opened, the aerospace equipment buzzed. The hot source is locked, room 1503. The door is biological identification, so I open it. Li Qiang signaled the team to scatter and the gun was connected to the gate. He took a deep breath and predicted, Ma Chao's disgusting fake identity, change. The door was opened, and the lights were soft. A middle-aged man sat on the sofa, dressed in a straight neck, holding coffee in his hand, and smiled softly. Detective Li Wei? You're coming so fast. Sit and have a drink? Li Qiang's eyes swept over. The man's beards were trimmed in a straight line, but the curve was not right. Fake. The cuffs of the suit were not nanofiber, with hidden blue ink. When walking, he stood up probably, and his right foot was slightly slimped and decorated. Ma Chao, stop acting. Xiaoyu has seen your fingers, your containers. V28 is not an accident, it is your synthesis. Who is the high-level one is trying to get? The man's eyes flashed and his smile froze. He suddenly dropped the cup, the coffee was pouring, and the heat made the carpet smoke. In an instant, he tore off the fake under his mask, revealing his gray true face. Do you die? How do you know? He leaned towards the desk, grabbed a remote control, and pressed the room police work. The window fell, and the hidden laser gun popped out from the wall and shot in. Scatter! Li Qiang shouted, visually capturing the path. The laser is arc-shaped, 1 second between them. He leaned to the side, pulled Xiao Lai to hide in the kitchen, rubbed the bottle over the cabinet, and the wood chips were flying, and the pungent burnt smell was overwhelming. Aerospace counterattacked, and a laser gun hit a gun, sparking 4 times. Brother, I'm broken. He is a double-weight identity. He is the apartment manager on the surface, but he is a test head in secret. Data shows that he has an underground passage. The police rushed in and the gun sounded like a blow. Ma Chao headed towards the sun, and limp turned into agile running fake limp. He smashed open the glass door, and the rainwater came in from the basin, catching the fishy smell of the river. Giant Pain yelled in a message, closing the platform. He wants to jump. But it's too late. Ma Chao grabbed the unmanned aircraft remote control on the platform and started a hidden flying vehicle. The engine was buzzing and the red light was dazzling. He swung his body, swung into the night sky, and disappeared into the neon lights. You can't catch me, Li Qiang. The game has just begun. His smile roared in the wind, like a ghost. The team stood calmly while panting, and the room was in a mess, overturned tables and chairs, and the holes in the walls were filled with smoke. Xia Yan slid against the wall, his face turned pale. He is that person. I remember the green fog in the container clearly. It seems to be alive, and it moves when it is stretched, sticking to the skin and burning. Li Qiang squatted down, held her hand, and his eyes were gentle. This verb not only verifies the accident, the synthesis of the laboratory and the abandonment of the container, and also allows him to see the coolness of the virus. It is not abstract data, but burning poisonous fire. Deep inside, the doubtful fog spreads, replaced by faith. The truth is worth all the risks. He changed from a cold detective to a flesh and blood guardian, and he treated Xiao Li's fear and his family's pain. You are brave, Xiao Wang. This detail proves the V-28's sample characteristics: dynamically spread, artificial nanoloading. Ma Chao escaped, but we have his route network. Giant Pain, follow the unmanned aircraft. Giant Pain responded, received. The city monitored the network, but he couldn't run far away. But be careful, he chased and killed. There was a report that there were unknown weapons in the industrial area. Li Qiang stood up and looked out the window. The city is like a scar, and the murderer is hidden in the light. He analyzed Xia Yan's description in his brain. The green fog sways, beating like a heart, the sticky burns, implying that the virus has the ability to assemble itself. It is not a simple infection, it is a well-designed weapon. Tap the window with your fingers, and the rhythm speeds up. The next goal, the source of the virus. The rain hit the glass, blurring the visual line, but his determination was as clear as a sharp blade. Ma Chao's escape was just a temporary moment. The sarcastic network was tearing a little. The rain whipped the SUV's car like a whip, and the night in Shanghai had become a chaotic ruin. The glass curtain wall of Xingdeju apartment was still reflecting the red light of the police light behind him. Li Qiang stepped on the gas door and his car was sliding on the slippery Nanjing road, with a sharp friction sound on the tire. As Avon grabbed the handrail, the blue light from the palm equipment reflected on his tight face, the signal tracking of the unmanned signal. Ma Chao, that bastard, went out to the outside world, at a speed of 80 kilometers per hour. Brother, this pursuit is not simple. His backup may have moved. Xia Yu curled up in the back seat, with water dripping from the raincoat. Her hands tightly held the backpack, and her eyes recovered from the panic just now. I can help. The blue bar on that container is not random. I remember it looks like a serial number, with a upgrade version written behind the V-28. When he was dismissed, he also whispered, Pudong 2nd District. Maybe that's another point. Li Qiang glanced at her from behind and said with a steady voice, Xia, thank you. Your details are worth the price. Aerospace, cross-map outdoor to Pudong District 2, monitor the full mark of the blind area. His eyes swept over the road, neon signs shattered, the trash can on the street turned over, and the smell of rotten food was scattered and the pungent disinfectant was scattered. The virus made the city shine like a wound, and the fire from afar was rising, and someone smashed the window and robbed the robbery, screaming shattered in the wind. This kind of confusion made Li Qiang's visual memory move like thunder, and every shadow and every intersection were frozen in his brain. Suddenly, the communications exploded, and Giant Pain's voice was urgent. Li Qiang, the official fingerprint database has uploaded your equipment. It is fully matched with Ma Chao's contact network, at least 3 fellows. But beware, there is internal leaks, and our mobile routes have been monitored. The chase team has been launched, and the weapons are unmanned. Before the sound of the words came to an end, a red light flashed in the rear camera. 3 unmanned aircraft were tilted down like birds, flames were sprayed from the gun mouth, and the Zibo brushed the tail of the car. Sparks burst out. As the SUV shook, Li Qiang turned quickly, and his car hit the pavilion on the road. The fragments of the paper were dissipated like snow, and the ink fragrance mixed with the smell of fire medicine was poured on the noodles. "Don't die, the counterattack is coming," he growled, and the sea of brain instantly replayed the road situation. There were building ruins at the intersection ahead, the slope of the river embankment on the left, and the narrow alley on the right. Visual memory prediction: the attack path of the unmanned aircraft is spiral downward, and the first aiming tire is 3 seconds away. "Turn left, river embankment," Li Qiang shouted, and after a dozen directions, the car slid into the slope, mud rising, sticking to the fuzzy line on the wind glass. Aerospace grabbed the police stepping gun from the back seat, and the window was swept into the rain, making it cold and bitter. "I'll cover it." He aimed and pulled the fender bang. An unmanned machine wings broke, spiraled down, hit the road light and exploded into a fireball, and the heat waves slammed. Li screamed, but quickly gritted her teeth. "I can open the gun. Teach me." Her hands trembled and took the gun with her hands, her eyes flashed with determination, and from the shock of the target, the electric shock turned into the spark of the warrior. Li Qiang pointed his head and moved his heart. "Trust, this thing has never been free." He once solved the case by himself, always thinking that one person would be more risky. Now, looking at Xiaoyan's back, he realized that the battle of the lonely army would only make the shadow longer. "Aim at the wings and breathe calmly. Aerospace, give her the target." The second unmanned machine approached, and the laser sight jumped on the car with a red point. Li Qiang accelerated, and was ambushed in his brain. There was a hot source behind the ruins. It was not a human being, it was a human being. Two figures hid behind a collapsed billboard, holding a gun in hand, with a predicted position of centimeters. The ruins ahead, ambush. Reduce speed and counterattack. SUV car, tire screams. The chaser emerged from the shadows, the gun was blowing fire, and the piercing hit the car door, and the sunken impact sounded like a drum. Astronaut opened fire first, hit one of his shoulders, and the blood fog was sprayed and the fishy smell scented. The man fell to the ground, and the bag of evidence fell from his hand fell off, a finger scanner inside. Li Qiang got off the car, and the rain hit his face. He swung toward the proof and instantly compared his memory. The finger marks on the bag were spiral, similar to Ma Chao, with a slight difference: the index finger of his right hand had an extra scar mark. "Sister," Li Qiang whispered, and his brain pulled out the database. The match was successful. Zhang Wei, Ma Chao's experimental assistant, worked together last year. The finger marks the ring, not a single person's movement, but a team synthesizes the virus and spreads to the city center. At this moment, he was as refreshing as the current was blowing away. He was not chasing blindly, but was tearing him off. Zhang Wei, Ma Chao's dog-legged giant pain, verify this finger mark and catch the alive. Another chaser came, and the sword light flashed. Li Qiang avoided his side and predicted his way to cut off the road, his right hand, with a curve of 45 degrees. He punched the other party's wrist with a backhand, and the bones were cracked and the sound was crisp and the man fell to the ground. Li opened her gun from the car, and Ze brushed the legs of the chasing killer, so she was so precise that she was stunned. I hit it." Yuhang laughed and patted her on the shoulder. "It's good, novices. This team is so powerful." They picked up the prisoners, stuffed them into the rear box of the car, and restarted the engine. In the pursuit, this reaction was like a climax, which made Li Qiang's blood boil. Visual memory is not only a tool, but also a weapon, guiding the team from defense to attack. The car drove into the ruins of the outer beach. The wind was blowing, the waves slapped the dam, and the smell of fishy smell was heavy. Astronauts connected to the rear door of the monitoring system, and the keyboard hits it like rain, discovering Ma Chao's communication record is pulled out. The encryption layer is broken, and there is an encrypted email link. High-level hook: look at this ID, the Shadow Committee, which goes directly to the government. Ma Chao's project is the city purification plan, virus synthesis, used to control the population and clear residents of the inefficient area. The upgraded laboratory in Pudong District 2 is a base for use, hidden under the old ship. Xia Yan approached and his eyes widened. Yes. The bar on the container is the upgrade version of V-28. When he abandoned it, he said preparation point start. I thought it was an illusion, but now, this is a murder plan. Li Qiang held the direction tightly and his heart was rumbling. Trusting Xia Yan was not because of her words, but because she dared to stand up. This made him recall his wife and daughter's hospital bed. If he had believed in many people at the beginning, he might not have been so lonely. Xia, you have changed from a passerby to one of us. This investigation requires your eyes. Tell me, what is the special thing about the green fog when the container is cracked? Color, speed? She took a deep breath and her voice became stable. The fog does not dissipate, like a live net. When it spreads, it will burn when it sticks to the skin. There are small words on the blue barcode, Nanny self-assemble, perhaps the key of the upgraded version, making the virus even more obscure. As the communication device was heard, Jian Payne's voice breathed, the database support is in place, and the full fingerprint network has been expanded. Zhang Wei's record shows that he is a source of leaks. Someone inside bought him and the mobile routes are fully exposed. New crisis, Ma Chao sent a ground team to block Pudong Bridge. He walked, but quickly. Crisis is like a shadow, the SUV turns into the alley, and the steel tendons in the ruins are twisted like ghost claws, and they hit it and click. Suddenly, a roadblock rose in front of him. It was not the police, it was a trap. The iron network pops out from both sides, scattering a buzzing sound, and the smell of the middle burnt air is lingering. Ma Chao's colleague was hiding in the dark, with his guns in a aligned manner. Train! Yu Hang shouted. The car was in a hurry, and the tire burned and the nose was burned. Li Qiang's visual memory scan, the gap between the iron network is 0.8 meters, the arc path is slammed, 2 seconds apart, 3 people in the dark. Position prediction, the first on the left holds the net gun, and the second on the right sniper. Scatter. Xia Wu, cover on the right side, aerospace, shut off the wire. The team is like a choking wheel. Xia Yan got off the car, and the rain filled her body. She shot and hit the shoulder of the sniper on the right side, screaming and resounding, I'm holding it. Her growth rose like a flame, from fear to action, and her eyes were filled with tacit understanding of warriors. As the aerospace swung the electric box toward the roadside, the decoder in his hand flashed, quantum lock, give me 10 seconds. As the arc approached, Li Qiang held a wave and was so hot that his clothes were squirting. He predicted that the net gun was slim, and the backhanded proof bag hit the gunner's wrist, the iron net was stuck, the arc was short-circuited, and the sparks were 4 times. It's broken! Yu Hang shouted, the trap collapsed. The team fought back and subdued their classmates. Xia Lai gasped and wiped the mud on her face, I did it. Thank you for believing me. Li Qiang patted her back and said softly, no, it's a Su thank you. This trap should not be covered by the entire army. But the team changed everything. Insider by Ruchao, trust is a weakness in the past, now, it is a shield. The faces of his wife and daughter appeared. For the first time, he felt that the lone shackle was broken. This growth is heavy, which makes him stronger. They took the prisoners forward and arrived at the Pudong shipyard. The abandoned cargo lenses were like giant beasts, the river water slapped the hull, and the waves were rising and falling. Aerospace scan in trance, the upgraded laboratory is underground and has a dense source of heat. Ma Chao's records show that there is the final certificate here, virus blueprints, and high-level signatures. When you open the door, the air inside is hot and the chemical smell is like a poisonous fog. Flashlight swipes, there are many test tube racks, and the screen flashes and retains data. Central operating table, a USB driver lying alone. Li Qiang lifted up, inserted into the equipment, screen display, virus structure, nano self-organized sequence, accompanied by email, the purification plan is started, approved by the committee. Ma Chao, sales certificate. The dark side is like a black hole, this is not an accident, it is a deliberate massacre and a victim of power games. The collapse of the city is just a corner of the chess game. Xia Yan whispered, those infected people, they are victims. Yuhang clenched his fists and said, we expose it. Li Qiang pointed his head, his emotions were like a chain of iron, tightening the three people, from strangers to life and death. But the communication suddenly became silent, and Jian Payne's voice continued, ejaculation and expansion. They are here. Outside the ship, the armament package. The sound of footsteps came from above, as heavy as iron boots. The crisis has recurred, and the evidence is like a potato in hand. Jiang Feng shouted, and in the dark, his claws stretched out. The iron door of the ship creaked in Li Qiang's hands, like an old man's breathing, and the underground passage behind the door swallowed their footsteps. The slightest response of the river slapping the outer wall comes from above, scattering the hidden echo of the remote sirens. The air is hot and sticky, and the sour smell of chemical medicines directly digs the nostrils, making Xia Yan unable to help but cover her mask. This place is like the poison in the tomb, she said in a low voice, shaking. Her eyes swept over the spotted walls in the flash of the hand, the water spreads like blood, the pipes scattering into a net, and the deep buzzing birds were hidden. Li Qiang walked in front, his gun tightly, and his visual memory was moving like thunder. Every crack in every corner of the revolving corner was frozen in his brain. Keep in a team shape, skin the middle of the Xia dynasty, and behind the aerospace hall. The enclosure that Jian Payne said is not something to play with. Ma Chao's dog legs may have been penetrated. His voice was calm, with an unquestionable leader's aura. Since then, he has always been alone and soundless like a shadow. Now, carrying these two people, he feels that the extra weight on his shoulders is not a burden, but a support. The inner heart is, you can no longer be a lonely wolf, the trust of the team is the key to breaking the deadlock. The channel is as close as it is. A steel door is locked, the surface is engraved with traces of finger marks, spiral marks, and the edges are oily and reflect blue light. Astronauts are approaching, the palm equipment is buzzing, thermal imaging shows that there is a living signal inside, which is weak but much. The door is an old biological identity, and I opened it. It's done. The door slides open, and there is a spacious underground laboratory. The light tube is unstable, the operating table is covered with dust, the test tube frame is oblique, and the remaining green liquid flows slowly in the glass, like a living tube. The air is filled with the pungent smell of disinfectant and the fishy smell of rotten meat, making people's stomach tumbling. Scattered searches, Li Qiang whispered, I look at the instruments, aerospace maps, and Xia Yu's warning door. He walked to the center console, touching the keyboard with his fingers, flying in dust. Visual memory starts, like the movie Rewind, the data is spelled in the brain, and the screen flashes and continues, the experience process is reproduced. In the picture, a figure is busy in front of the operating table, Ma Chao, gray shaking, and a handheld syringe injected green liquid into the culvert. The police suddenly rose, the container burst, and the green fog sprayed. He panicked and stepped on the air, and his right foot was exposed. The smoke spreads, contaminates the mice, the animals twitch and change, the skin bulges and blisters, and the eyes are red. People are accidents, Li Qiang murmured, with a cold shock in his voice, it's not a natural explosion. V28 is a synthetic virus, and the nanoload allows it to be self-assembled, and its contagiousness is 10 times that of the flu. Ma Chao failed to adjust the assembly and ejaculated to the riverside. That container is a proof. Xia Yan turned his head and his eyes widened. The green fog I saw. It turns out that it is like this. Those infected are innocent. There was more anger in her voice, and from the panic of the target, the sound turned into a flame of seeking truth. Aerospace tapped in front of the end of the wall, and the map layer on the screen opened. Brother, your return is awesome. Look at me now, the map mark is not a mess, this is a network. His fingers danced, his gold fingers moved like a quantum brain, filtering TB data, and red lines connected like spider wires, from the ship to the city center, and then radiating to the suburbs. It's unblocked. Finally, it points to the government's border experiment room, the old military base in Qingpu district, and the mark is written on the shadow plan too. Ma Chao's preparation points are high-level resources to lift his waist. This is not a single show, but the tip of the iceberg of power games. Li Qiang is close to the scene, and his visual memory is locked in the map details, the coordinates of Qingpu Base, the hidden entrance of the deck, the appearance of the waste warehouse, and the underground is a high-security laboratory. Okay, the evidence is complete. Aerospace, uploading finger marks to match Ma Chao's spiral pattern, fully matched. Giant pain, did you hear it? We locked the main idea, Ma Chao, synthesizing virus, accident ejaculation, and a committee behind him will suck his waist. In the communications, Giant Pain's voice was silenced, in the background was a roar of conflict. I received, fingerprint verification 100% match. The diary shows that the virus is a test of urban purification and is designed to control the population. But Li Qiang, high-level pressure is high, someone inside wants to ban my report. Hold on, I delay time. The refreshing feeling is like current shaking Li Qiang's spine. The finger marks are not only traces, but also iron certificates, tearing the face of the Yin. Ma Chao changed his pride from the suspect, and the silhouette of the power game emerged, not a crazy scientist, but a chess piece. The high-level shadow is as long as the fog of the river, covering the sky and the sun. But at this moment, he did not take it alone, but the team shared the victory. Fuck well, Aerospace. Your data has made us go from guessing to becoming a key player. The voice fell and the room shook. The floor cracked, and the growls burst out from the winding vent, like the breath of a wild beast. Green fog spreads, and the red spots on the hot source scans skyrocket. The virus changes. 3 twisted figures emerged, a monster who was once a tester, with gray and green skin bulging, calm like vines, red and blood dripping from his eyes, and his claws gripped the ground and made a harsh shave. The nose is smelly in the air, and the smoke sticks like glue, and the skin becomes burnt when touched. Change. Back. Li Qiang shouted, his brain was predicting the way. The first one was straight to Xian, jumping to a curve of 1.2 meters, the second one was on the side, with a speed of 3 meters per second, behind the third hall. The strength was extremely strong. His visual memory captures every muscle pump, but he may be like a tide. These are not humans, but viruses, representing the pain of his wife and daughter. Xiaoyu screamed, retreated to the corner of the wall, and his gun shook. They are too fast. The first change of body erected, and his claws were straight at Xiaoyu's throat. Li Qiang held his body and a blood mark was scratched on his shoulder, which was bleeding and painful like fire. He fired his gun with his backhand, and the monster fell to the ground and twitched. Green blood flowed, and the rotten floor sizzled. Xia, run! Go to the entrance of the passage. He roared, pushing her back, and his heart was as quiet as a flash. I can't let her die. This girl's verdict is the fire of hope. He would have to take it on his own. Now, he would protect himself. Courage is not reckless, but a shield for the team. The second strange body rolled over, and the claws swept over Yahang's arms, tearing their sleeves, and blood beads fell. Yuhang hummed and avoided it. Don't die, this thing will regenerate. He grabbed the equipment and moved the golden finger in his brain at high speed. In the crisis, filtered the biological data of the different bodies and found the weak point. The core of Nanny is in the spine. Li Qiang, ejaculate the spine. Xiaowu, cover me. Xiaoli gritted her teeth and shot. Zili rubbed the monster's legs and forced it to retreat. I can do it. Although her shot was so cool, she calmed her feet. Li flicked his body, and clawed his claws, and rolled over the operating table with his side, and a gun exploded. No, spine. The monster is soft, and the green fog is sprayed out from the wound, making the room even hotter. The third roared and roared, with a force like a tank, knocking over the test tube holder. The glass shattered in the sound of rain, and the liquid slipped violently. Li Qiang pulled Aerospace and retreated to the door. Aerospace, system. Break the electric system, seal the door. Aerospace danced with his fingers and inserted into the control panel. Quantum lock, give me, it's done. The light flashed, and the different bodies roared in the dark, but the internet popped out from the wall, sizzling the monster. The burnt smell spread, and the stench of the burnt flesh made people suck. the crisis has changed, and the golden finger of the spacecraft has been used as a helper of the gods. It has been touched by the main system, and an email link pops up on the screen. Expose some of the truth. Ma Chao's diary is uploaded to the cloud, and the committee's signature has been backed up. Jian Pain, it's ready. Jian Pain's communication continued. I received, part of it was exposed. But the pressure was overwhelming, and the high level ordered us to be arrested. Strongly, Li Qiang, this is a midterm breakthrough. Li Qiang panted and helped Xiaoli up. Her hands were cold and she held his arm tightly. Thank you, you saved me. At that moment, his growth was like a river dam, from the arrogance of a personal hero to the warmth of the team leader. He patted her on the shoulder and said with a sound of determination, we will run away together. This is not the end, it is the beginning. A warm current broke out in his heart, and his wife and daughter's faces appeared. For them and for this city, he was no longer a shadow, but a light. They rushed out of the passage, and the green fog spread behind them, and the roar of the different bodies became weak. But outside, the wind of the river turned cold and his feet were thunderous. Ma Chao's bigger pursuit came. The unmanned plane was buzzing, the ground team surrounded by guns, and the red laser network swept over the boat. The leader's unmanned broadcasting sound was as distorted as Ma Chao's smile. Li Qiang, do you think you won the exposure? Game upgrade, Qingpu base is your tomb. The gun sounded and Zifu wiped the top of the head, and the flames reflected the red night sky. Xiaolu tightened his backpack, aerospace restart equipment. Li Qiang led his team to the river, and the crisis was like a tide, pushing towards the deep impurity of the second half. The city's fighting trembled in the gunfire, waiting for the final reversal. The wind roared like a wild beast, scattered with the dampness of the storm and the burnt smell of the fire from the far-off gun. The iron coil of the ship pulled out a long shadow under the red light of the unmanned aircraft. Li Qiang pulled Xiaoyan's arm and half-dragged into a pile of scraps that had been abandoned. Behind the aerospace hall, the blue light from the equipment on his palms reflected on his sweaty face. Hurry, turn left. The unmanned sweep is hidden in the overturned cart every 5 seconds. Li Qiang growled, his voice pressing over the top of his head. His visual memory is like a flash scan, the dents of the car tire, the bolts on the cabinet, and everything is determined to determine the best escape route. The zip brushed the iron skin, sparks were filled with 4 waves, and the air was twisted. The 3 of them slapped under the cart, gasping for breath and heartbeat, and Xiaoyan's raincoat dripped water, making a shattering sound on the muddy ground. Those monsters are still behind her, she gasped, her eyes fluttering. The green fog seemed to be alive, sticking to the skin and burning. I thought it was just a nightmare, but now. Her voice continued, carrying a stubbornness, turning from the attacker on the road into a chasing warrior. Li Qiang patted her shoulder. Breathing under the mask was calm. It's not a dream, Xiaoyu. Your proof is our only saliva. Tell me in detail, from the beginning on the river that night, what did you see Ma Chao dealing with? The appearance of the container and his movements are not leaking at all. He leaned against the iron wall and had begun to schedule the picture in the sea of brain. Xiaoyu's description will be mixed with his visual memory to verify the truth. Xiaoyu took a deep breath. Jiang Feng blew her hair, and she clenched her fists, as if replaying that terrifying scene. Last Friday evening, I went for a walk on the riverside. It was very stressful and I was working. I wanted to get some air. After the street corners and alleys, I saw a man, Ma Chao, who was definitely gray and limp. He came up and down from a black car, carrying a silver suitcase in his hand. The surface of the box had a blue bar on the surface, which was flashing cold light, like a high-tech experiment container. He squatted down, the box opened, and there was a glass tube inside, and the green liquid was movable, jumping like a heart. He was wearing gloves and fucking a small device, like a remote control syringe. Press the button, and the liquid sprayed out, turning into a fog and dissipated. He murmured, the test point is activated, and the high level will be satisfied. Suddenly, the box cracked the tracing and the fog was out of control and sprayed out. He panicked, ran away with his legs and dropped the box. Passers-by nearby inhaled the fog and coughed immediately, and his face turned blue. I was scared and hid without making any sound, but I remember, the box was engraved with the V28NM self-assembled, and there was a small mark, like a hidden spot on the map. Li Qiang's eyes narrowed, and his memory was flooding like a tide. The screen of the diary of the recreated laboratory in his brain, green liquid dynamo, remote control syringe, blue barcode sequence. Xia Yan's description is perfectly integrated, and the details are as embedded in the picture. Ma Chao did not abandon it casually, but deliberately tested ejaculation and simulated an accident. Verified, he said softly, with a cold and refreshing voice. It's not just a simple mistake. He used that device to activate the virus on the spot. Nano set it up to spread like a living. The box was a cover, creating a natural illusion. But why is the high level? This is too big, and blocking the city is not a way to save people, but a mouth. Astronaut raised his head from the equipment, his eyes were shiny, and his knocking sounded like a heavy rain. Brother, your partner. I was on the website of the internet and pulled out the original data of the locking order. Look at this, the government AI system's command record. 2 hours before the virus broke out, I went to the blind mode at a high level. Can't the locking be blocked? It is to prevent transmission and to be the proofreader. In the section on the river, the monitoring screen was 80%, and the remaining blind areas pointed to Ma Chao's car license plate. The city collapsed to bury the accident. The test of V28 failed, and the high level feared that the purification plan would be exposed. They used sealed shields to buy time market certificates. Xia Yan widened his eyes and angrily furrowed on his face. Those dead people are just playing for their power. My neighbor, an old man, was still in the sun yesterday. Now. Her voice choked, but she quickly gritted her teeth. I won't close my mouth. I will record all this verdict and I will send it to you. Li Qiang pointed his head and felt warm. Xia Yan's persistence was like a match, igniting the ashes in his heart. Since then, he always felt guilty about his wife and daughter's illness. Why didn't he notice the clues of the virus earlier? Why do you always take on the case and ignore your family? The guilt was like a steel slap, which made him unable to sleep at night. But now, looking at Xia Yan's eyes, he felt that the shackles were loose. Righteousness is not a lonely revenge, but a voice for every victim. This growth allowed him to climb out of the mud of self-responsibility and become a dynamic leader. Xia, your verb is a turn, he said, his voice firmly. It pushes us to attack from defense. Ma Chao thought we were turning around, but this detail made us thrust our hearts. High-level cover? We tear it open. The pleasure was like a current swelling, and the corners of Li Qiang's mouth slightly swelled. This is not an empty reasoning, but a living breakthrough. Xia Yan's description verifies people's manipulation, allowing him to feel the righteous movement, storm like a river. The guilt did not disappear, but it turned into fuel, driving him forward. The communication shocked. Jian Payne's voice came, and the background was the noise of the room. Li Qiang, did you hear it? I received Xia Yan's recording, iron certificate. Official resources to open green lights. I will airdrop the pack for you, including detoxifiers and unmanned interferers. But warning, the bigger ones are behind. The committee is not a fish, and it will pull the army and financial team. Qingpu Base is the core, and Ma Chao is there to back up the data. Be careful, they have sent elite teams to upgrade the locks to death. Received, Li Qiang responded. We crossed the locks and approached the base. Stay connected. He shut down and turned to the team. Jian Payne's things arrive in 5 minutes. Aerospace, mark the route. Xiao Wu, take the gun. We can't wait, the infection area is expanding. As the unmanned buzzer approached, they broke out from the car's slaughter and entered the drainage sluice on the river. Urban adventure is like a landscaping test. Outside the sealed line is an infected area, with scattered bodies scattered on the streets, the sweet smell of rotten smell in the air, and the crying far away is like a ghost. The unmanned interferer fell from the sky and hit the edge. The aerospace quickly started. The red light network flashed and chased the unmanned aircraft and fell out of control, burst into a fireball, and the hot waves rolled. They walked along the ridge. The mud and water were not above their knees, and the bones were cold. Li Qiang leads his vision to capture the surrounding area, there is a hot source of building ruins on the left, and roadblocks are hidden on the river embankment on the right. The fear of the infected area was like an invisible poisonous fog, and Xia Yan's steps were skeptical. Have you heard it? That roar, the infected person. Sure enough, two figures appeared in the shadow, with skin shaved, red eyes, green foam dripping from his mouth, and when it came, his claws gripped the floor and sounded like scraping bones. Scatter! Li Qiang shouted. His brain was predicted. The first one was to directly run into space, and the second one was to go to Xiaolu. He pushed Xia Yan open, and a gun shot the first knee. The monster fell to the ground and twitched, green blood sprayed, rotting the ground sizzling. Xia, shoot your legs. Don't aim, they will regenerate. Xia shook his fire, Ziyu hit, and the monster screamed. She took a step back and her face turned pale. It's so terrible. They were humans. Aerospace cover, shot the second one, stand. This area is part of the trap. Monitoring shows that Ma Chao used the infected person as a slumber, leading us to a dead end. Afraid that it spreads in the air, Li Qiang's heartbeat accelerated. The infection area is like a lens, reflecting his wife and daughter's hospital bed, the powerless cough, the slight eye behind the glass. The guilt rose, but he pushed it open. Think about those victims, Xiao Wang. Your neighbor, my family. If we don't run away, we just win. At this moment, the inner soul changed like a broken heart. Guilt is no longer a shackle, but a whip, making him turn from self-pity into a shield. The roadblock rises in front. The iron wire net is clad with a buzzing arc, and the buzzing bird is harsh. Aerospace scan, train. Ma Chao's handkerchief. There is a small ambush behind the internet, 3 people holding the gun. Li Qiang's eyes lit up, and his visual memory locked in detail. The fingerprints on the internet, the fresh spiral marks, Ma Chao's subordinates. On the army, he murmured, with the corner of his mouth curled up. Aerospace, interfering with the arc. Xiao Wu, pretending to be hit. The plan is like a flashing light. Xia Yan deliberately fell down and shouted, "Ah! The internet has arrived at me." The little boy immediately appeared from the shadow, 3 silly clothes, wearing police uniforms, and the guns were fixed. The committee will gain rewards for the arrest of the live ones, the leader shouted. Li Qiang flashed out from the side and predicted their way of attack. He knocked the first one down and hit the second wrist with a gun, and his bones were cracked and sounded brittle. The spacecraft started the interferer. The arc was short-circuited, and the sparks were 4 times. The third one was shot by Xia Yan and fell to the ground. How do you know? The leader gasped, his eyes flickering. Li Qiang squatted down, gunned his head, and watched as memories swiped over his cuffs, the blue ink, matching the V-28. Say, what is Ma Chao's next point? The entrance code of Qingpu base. The little boy was rumored, and Li Qiang sneered, don't say it. Your fingers have been recorded, and the committee will not be able to sell you. He was afraid to beat him. Tongmen, the code is purified 28. But there are changes in the head, don't go to die. Refreshing as a tide, identify the trap, catch the small balls, get the new line. The entrance code directly points to the core. This reverse turned Li Qiang's blood boiling, and the team's tacit understanding was like a sword, piercing Ma Chao's defense line. Astronauts arrested the prisoner and grinned, brother, this counterattack will explode. Giant pain, escort them back to the command room. They traverse the barricade and dive into the inner side of the ceiling line. The city is darker, neon lights twisted into ghosts in the rain, and the contours of Qingpu base appear far away. The walls of the military circle are abandoned, the high voices like tombstones, and the green light is hidden behind the iron network. The low growls in the infected area are unsatisfactory, the chemical smell is heavy in the air, and the sound of the footsteps is deep in the mud. Xia Yi gasped, we are almost here, but it feels like walking into the mouth of a giant beast. Li Qiang pointed his head and felt determined. The righteous power came from Xia Yan's verdict, making him overcome his guilt and become fearless. The communication device was lightly agitated. Giant Pain warned, there is a surge in heat around the base, and Ma Chao's elites are in place. Be careful, this is their last line of defense. The gunshot came from the front. Green fog spread like a touch, and the tight atmosphere was full of bowstrings. The team entered the darkness and approached the core of the lunar calendar. The walls of Qingpu Base are like giant spines, and the iron nets flash in a rainy night, and the buzzing sound is as harsh as the swarm of bees. Li Qiang leaned down and walked along the drainage with Xiaoyu and Yuhang. The mud and water did not exceed the calves. The cold and sticky touch made Xiaoyu's teeth light and dirty. She shook hands tightly and breathed under her mask. The east gate is there, and behind the iron gate is an underground passage. I remember what Xiao Wang said, the entrance code is Purified 28, but the layout inside is complicated, like a mist. From the east gate, the first door on the left is the inspection room, and there is a pass-through well on the right, which can be traversed by the laser network. Li Qiang pointed his head. His eyes were like a keel in the dark, and his visual memory captured the details of the surrounding area. The welding points on the iron network were easy, and the arc irrigation was 2.3 seconds away, and the heat source was patrolling the logic 50 meters away. Good thread, Xiaoyu. You have transformed from passers-by into our eyes. This layout saved our lives. His voice was low, and with encouragement, a warm current surged in his heart. Since before, he had always cracked the maps himself and ignored the value of his partners. Now, Xiaoyu's contribution made him realize that the wisdom of the team is like a multifaceted lens, illuminating the blind area. This growth is not abrupt, but the burden of every crisis has changed his leader from orders to co-heads. Astronaut pushed the lens, the blue light from the palm equipment reflected on his face, and the rain slid down the lens. Brother, let me try it. There is still 30% of the electric power left in the dryer, and it opens the door. He danced with his fingers, entered the sequence, and the iron gates blew a deep mechanical moan, sliding open. The sour smell of chemical medicines in the air, the fishy smell of the scented chemicals, like the poisonous atmosphere in the tomb. The three of them came in with fish. The passage was narrow and moist, the tubes on the wall were like blood vessels, and green light came out from the gap. After going deep into the room, Xiao Li's rope was sent to the site. When you climb through the wind well on the right side, you can reach the core laboratory. Be careful, there is a pressure-sensitive floor inside. Li Qiang squatted down and visually scanned the wellhead. Iron slug, finger marks on the edge, fresh spiral marks. Ma Chao's men, this is the closest one. Go in. They pried open the sieve column and crawled into the narrow wind tube. The knees were sore that they grinded, and the air was as hot as a steaming pot. Xiao Li crawled in front and gasped, I climbed over the pipes of the old building when I was a child and got used to it. But this was so sad. Her words were filled with self-deprecating, and she relieved her tension. At the entrance of the core experiment room, the laser net is as thick as a spider, and the red light swept across the ground, sizzling the air. Aerospace low curse, high-tech anti-cancellation, quantum encryption. Give me a minute to touch, but you have to feel it. Li Qiang stared at the network, watching the memory like a high-speed transit machine. The laser path is an interchange network. The weak point is at the joint point in the upper left corner. The solder has a 0.2 mm micro gap, and the truncated gap can be used. I'll come. Aerospace, prepare, Xiaoyu, beware of the back. He took a deep breath, and his heart flicked his wife and daughter's faces. The whiteness on the hospital bed made him push him out of fear. The body was like an arrow, and each beam of light was predicted to be weak. The shoulders were painted with laser, the clothes were smoked, and the heat was burning to make the skin bleed. Weak spot locks. The solder is old, it is hot and cold, and the rain has been swollen and it has been easy to penetrate. Astronaut took advantage of the opportunity to plug in the decoder. His fingers were like rain. It's done. The network is closed for 30 seconds. Irritate. The three of them rushed out and entered the laboratory. The room is wide and wide, with light lanterns and irregular, with many operating tables, and the green liquid on the test tube rack is flowing slowly, like a living duct. The pungent smell of disinfectant in the air is mixed with bloody blood. The cold cabinet around the wall is half open, and the sample box is scattered inside, and the label is blurred and V28 is out of control and changes. Li Qiang looked at everything and freezes his memory. The blood on the floor was sprayed, and the shape was like an out of control was repeated. "Look here," Li pointed to the central end, and the sound was shaking. I heard the little boy mention it. This is the main console. The layout is like a hospital, with the cultivation area on the left, and the database on the right. Li Qiang stepped forward, touched the keyboard with his fingers, and flew in dust. The screen lights up and the screen continues to unfold. The human experience record repeats itself. In the screen, Ma Chao was busy in front of the operating table, injecting green liquid into the culture dish, murmured, "The purification plan is perfect. Nano is self-organized to allow the virus to accurately remove the inefficient population. High-level rewards will be awarded." Suddenly, the alarm rose, the container burst, the green fog sprayed, and the experimenter was convulsed. They twitched and fell to the ground, and their skin was blisters. Ma Chao limped and stepped back. "It's out of control." "Start with the point of starting, destroying the certificate. The records show that this is the source of the synthetic virus, designed by man for urban control. An out-of-control ejaculation caused an explosion in the city." "The evidence is shattered," Li Qiang said in a low voice. His heart was filled with tide. "This is not natural disaster, but a victim of power games." The guilt turned into anger, which turned him from detective to revenge. "The virus is the source, but it's out of control. Ma Chao, your hand." As the voice fell, the lights in the room were lit, and a figure walked out from the shadows. Ma Chao, gray-shaped, wagging, wearing a navy, his right foot slightly limp, and his eyes were as deep as a wolf. "Li Qiang, congratulations. You dug up the bone. But this game is not something you can play." He pressed the remote control, the door was locked, the laser network restarted, and the red light was tightened. "The purification plan is a high-level work. Virus synthesis is used to reshape the city, clear the slums and rebuild elite areas. The committee will snatch the waste and the military will provide resources. I am just an executor. It is an accident that goes out of control, but it is exposed. They will destroy Shanghai and join your family." Li Qiang shot against each other, and saw that he had seen the memory of squirting over Ma Chao's hands, finger marks, fresh spiral marks, and oily reflections on the edges. "Accident? Your fingers are full of on the operating table. This pattern matches the street corner marks. In the cold cabinet, this scar mark matches the containers on the river. Simple reasoning, you activate V28 with your hands, test for ejaculation, and create the illusion of accidents. High-level cover, you prove it. But you lose control, right? Those infected are your testimonials." His voice was as sharp as a knife, and every sentence was like climaxes. The chain of evidence in the brain, finger patterns, diary records, and summer verbs, all locked up Ma Chao's crimes. The pleasure was like an electric shock. Ma Chao's face turned pale, and he took a step back. "How do you know about the scar? You should die." Xia Yan shouted angrily, "I see you and put the box. Green fog burns passers-by, you still say high-level treatment. What's the power to kill this?" Aerospace approaches the end and knocks on the keyboard. "Brother, don't waste your time. I'm working on the system." His golden fingers moved, simulating quantum paths in his brain, and filtering the firewall. During the crisis, the laser approached and the air was burning, but he calmed down. The opportunity for transformation. The journal was uploaded to the cloud, and the committee's signature was exposed. See, email link, approved by the Minister of Inner Palace, attached with the virus blueprint. "Giant pain, it's ready." Ma Chao roared and rushed to the end, but Li Qiang fell down and shot his head, running. "Your limp has been sold to you, from the industrial area to here, it is all your feet." The team faced the terror and grew like fire. Aerospace has changed from a vein to a warrior. Xiao Wang went from fear to roar, and Li Qiang's leader made them connect like an iron chain. The exposure opportunity will be obtained, and the pleasure will be released. The system alarm has begun. The truth of the virus is broadcasted online. The city's screen flashed, and the panic turned into anger. Suddenly, the door exploded. Giant Pain led the team in, and the gun was aimed at Ma Chao. "Li Qiang, support has been reached. The official resources are all opened, arrest him." But Giant Pain's eyes were so different, Li Qiang's visual memory captured, his cuffs were blue and ink, matching the V-28. Giant Pain? You! Before he finished speaking, Giant Pain pulled out his gun and turned around and shot towards Yu Hang. Ziwei wiped his shoulders and the blood fog was sprayed. Insider. The committee will buy me, the closure plan will start. He growled, his face twisted. Mixed outbreak. Ma Chao took advantage of the trouble and grabbed the remote control to activate the change. Green fog sprayed out from the wind opening, 3 monsters swept, and their claws grabbed the ground like scraping iron. Xiao Wu opened fire to cover up. Giant Pain, you are selling in the city. Yu Hang covered his wounds in blood, and entered the door and locked. Sure, I will open the escape route. Li Qiang rushed to Giant Pain, judged his gun, hit his wrist with a punch, and shot the gun and flew away. The ghost inside was exposed like thunder, which made Li Qiang feel disheartened, the crack of trust, but it also made him, he can no longer believe blindly, the team is the core. The team fought back, subdued Giant Pain and Ma Chao, and begged them to get out. The different roars followed, the laser network restarted, and the red light swept across the corridor. The spacecraft shut down and the doors slid open. They rushed into the night, the wind was blowing, and the rain hit the faces cold. The unmanned chased the buzzer and looked down, and the sun was swollen like rain, but Li Qiang led his team into the ruins, visually guiding the escape path. Scattered and merged with the city center, he shouted, his heart as if he was like a thorn. The ghost was exposed, the evidence was exposed, and the determination to save the city was like a fire burning. The wife and daughter's faces appeared, and the cities twitched in their hands. On the eve of the climax, the giant beast was snatching, but they had already grasped the sharp blade. The steel tendons in the ruins pierced into the night sky like broken bones, and the rain rolled down the cracked walls, smashing against Li Qiang's clothes and blew up. The green fog at Qingpu base was still rushing behind him, like a poisonous snake spitting out a letter, and its erratic roar was surrounded by the unmanned buzzing birds, chasing them so much that they couldn't breathe. Yu Hang covered his shoulders with wounds, blood mixed with rain poured into his palms, sticking to warmth. He gritted his teeth and opened the way. Brother, Ma Chao and Giant Pain have been arrested, but there are too many monsters behind him. Xia, are you going? His voice stopped, and the blue light on the equipment on his palm reflected his white face, and he did not stop scanning the hot source. Xia Yu followed up with gasping, and the proof bag in her backpack swayed, hitting her legs and making a light sensation. Her gun was still shaking in her hand, and her eyes turned from panic to determination. I can. Those monsters are the products of viruses, and we have to stop it. Behind Li Qiang's palace, the gun was aimed at the back, and the memory captured the chaos like a flash, the different slamming paths and the bullet bolts of the bullet bolts, everything was frozen in the brain. He kicked a stone with one foot, hitting the knee of a monster chasing him, and hearing the brittleness of the bone cracks. The thing fell to the ground and twitched, the green blood was sprayed, and the rotten ground was sizzling. Dispersible. Yu Hang, Ao Giant Pain, Xia Yu, come with me. Ma Chao, that bastard, don't let him flip the plate. During the battle, the escort was relaxed. Ma Chao took advantage of the flash of the fire from the unmanned plane and hit the wound of the airspace with a sudden elbow. The blood sprayed out. He growled and slapped, do you think you caught me? The committee's network is more dense than the virus. He limped and caught a hidden electric motorcycle, with a snail, and his tire was crushed through the mud and splashed, and disappeared into the rain in an instant. Giant Pain was shot by Li Qiang and his face turned green. Li Qiang, you are wrong. I'm not completely abusive. He is a high-level pussy, but Ma Chao is the head. I will revise my confession and help you chase me. Li Qiang's eyes narrowed, and his memory locked the trajectory of Ma Chao's escape. The motorcycle's car was deep and purified, and the right wheel was heavy, his limp affecting the balance. The rain brushed wheel marks pointing to the old road in the northeast, along the Qingpu. Refuse the confession. Let me see, Giant Pain. Aerospace, analyze the route, Xiao Wu, guard the surrounding area. We chase. My heart sank. Giant Pain's betrayal was like a knife, but Li Qiang pushed the suspicion. Trust can no longer be weak. This city and this team need him to be a hero, not a detective who only observes. They jumped onto the borrowed police jeep, the engine growled out of the ruins, the tires glided on the asphalt road, and the rain blurred the wind glass. The city collapse is almost crazy. Outside the blockade, the infected area is spreading like a sea of fire, and smoke is coming from the high floors far away. Crying and guns are in chaos. The smell of burnt plastic in the air is filled with the pungent disinfectant, the scattered bodies are scattered along the road, and the skin is gray and white, making Xia Yan's stomach twitch. Look at that, she pointed out the window. A group of infected people attacked an overturned rescue vehicle, and the scratches of their claws scratched the door sounded like nails on the blackboard. The virus is spreading, we have to stop the source. Astronaut knocked on the equipment in the back seat, and the blood stained the red keypad, but he didn't stop. The data is pulled out. I went into the city monitoring back door from Ma Chao's motorcycle signal. Prediction route. He walked over the infection area and went straight to the old terminal of Pudong Airport. That was the committee's hidden at the point. The map marker contains quantum encryption layers. The high-level reserves the virus blue map there, preparing for air escape. His voice was rapid, his eyes lit up, and his golden fingers moved like quantum brain, filtering massive data, hot source rails, blind paths, and locking the next hiding place. But be careful, there are small armed heads around the terminal building, with at least 10 people, equipped with laser guns. Li Qiang held the direction plate tightly and visually replenished the details. Ma Chao's motorcycle figure reappeared in the brain, the scratches at the tail of the car and the sound of the engine when it was turned. Everything was like a slow lens. The terminal building, southeast entrance. Giant Pain, what you said was re-exchanging the confession, giving me the internal code to prove that you are trustworthy. Giant Pain gasped, took out a data chip from his cuff and stuffed it to aerospace. The code is shadow purification. I was bought to protect my family, but Ma Chao's plan was too crazy. The virus was not stopped in Shanghai, but national testing. The high-level minister signed it himself, and I have email verification. The jeep slams into the airport, with a sealed wire like an iron wall, and the armed police's red scan lights swept over the car. Li Qiang flicked away from a laser, his car passed the roadblock, and sparked 4 times. Giant Pain, open the road. Giant Pain opened the internal channel and roared, I am Giant Pain, special team leader. Let it go, urgently arrest. The iron door rose slowly, but the voice was not heard. As the wings fell, the small heads were drawn out of the side wings, 5 slurs, wearing military uniforms, surrounded by guns, and grinning. Insider? The committee said, who will die? The gun sounded like a blow, and the pistol hit the car door. The sunken collision was like a drum. Scatter! Li Qiang shouted, his brain was predicting the way. The first small head aimed at the tire, and the second side. He slammed his car, and the jeep shook, and rushed out of the car door, and shot the shoulders of the middle leader with a backhand. The blood fog was sprayed and the fishy smell sucked his nose. Giant Pain, prove yourself, arrest them. Giant Pain hesitated for a half second, then slammed at the nearest small head, and a knee hit the middle abdomen. The man hummed and said, I'm wrong. Li Qiang, I'm sorry. He grabbed the other party's gun, slammed the other one, and slammed the face, and the bones were cracked and sounded crisp. Repentance is like fire. Giant Pain's clumsy and honest actions made Li Qiang feel relaxed. It's not all black, this city can still be saved. Astronaut covered the car and shot and forced the third one to retreat. Giant Pain, it's very hard. Data shows that this small head is Ma Chao's straight head, with blue ink on the cuff. V28 left. Xia Yan rolled to the road, and the rain filled her body. She shot the 4th leg, and the little girl brushed over, screaming like a monster, you beasts. For the sake of high level, she sold the whole city. Her shooting became stable, turning from the target's tremor to the bravery of the warrior. During the battle, Li Qiang rushed towards his head's small head. The man slammed and got up, pulled out his dagger and slapped it. Ma Chao will take revenge. Li Qiang avoided his body, and saw that he had captured the arc of the dagger with his memory, hit his wrist with a punch, and flew away. He pressed the other party, his eyes closed with his cuffs. Say, who is the high level? Where is the minister's email? His little head gasped, and the mixed rain blood flowed into his eyes. Minister. He signed a blue picture and was on the top of the terminal building. The virus is a purification tool to clear the large population. Jian Pain stepped forward and locked his hand. Arson is completed. Li Qiang, I will take all the tricks. The committee meeting record. I have the backup. The verbal side. It's not a single accident. The high level covers the financial black hole with the virus, and rebuilds the city and sells it to the financial group. As refreshing as the tide came, Li Qiang's heartbeat accelerated. He opened the hidden surface, and the high-level cover was like a tearing of the face. Minister Wu's signature is not an abstract slander, but an iron certificate, allowing him to walk out of the mystery of reasoning and hold the sharp blade of truth. Okay, Jian Pain. You have been punished. Asahi, upload his confession. Xia, escort them to follow. We will enter the terminal building. They steered their heads into the old terminal building. The large hall was as empty as a tomb, flying in dust, and the air was filled with musty smell and chemistry. A low buzzer spread far away, the movement of the virus culturizer. Xia Li suddenly stopped, his eyes widened, and pointed out the floor-to-ceiling window. Look. That, a new incident. On the runway outside the window, a black car was parked, and several men with suitcases surrounded a metal box. Green fog was hidden. They whispered, the minister's order, the final sample of the bankruptcy. But Ma Chao said, leave a tube for use. Xia Xuan narrowed the window, and his voice was shaking clearly. I think that box. Like the riverside, it's blue code, V28 self-organized. Those men, one of them is the secretary of the minister. I have read it on the news. They were selling certificates, but leaving a hand in hand, and this certificate has been fully involved. Li Qiang's visual memory freeze window details, the box's bar sequence and the face profile of the secret book, all match the database. Reversal certificate, Xia Yu. You are watching the scene of the market crash. This is a high-level iron certificate, not a cover, but a continuous rumor. He immediately recorded the sound. Xia Yu detailed description. Green slut, secret book. The minister's pure plan cannot be stopped. Everything is like a living certificate, promoting investigation and stabbing the core. The team is experiencing a crisis on the edge of the collapse. Li Qiang signaled the end of the spacecraft to open the window, and the sending signal detonated the internet around the box. The green fog flashed, and the secret book scattered in panic. The box exploded, and the virus was destroyed. The flames reflected the red runway, and the hot waves were rolled up. The virus source has been partially resolved. Yang shouted, and the hot source on the equipment subsided, but Ma Chao is still on the top floor, the server room. Prediction, he starts the self-destruction, and the blueprint is completely destroyed. Li Qiang led his head to the stairs, and the guns were rumbling in the corridor. After the small head was escorted by Jian Pain, Xia Yan warned the side wings. The stairs were hot, sweat mixed with rain and slipped down. Li Qiang's shoulders were still hurting, but his inner energy changed like fire, from the coldness of the detective to the courage of the hero. He recalled his wife and daughter's hospital bed, and that powerless hand. He couldn't wait any longer. Protecting his partner is protecting everything. Suddenly, a laser light shot from the corner. Li Qiang held Xia Li and rubbed her arms with a hot bun. Her clothes were charred and painful. Xia, run. Aerospace, shut down. Xia Yan was stunned, his eyes flushed. Li Qiang, you. But she gritted her teeth and opened the fire to cover him up. Li Qiang responded with a flash of retaliation, and a laser gun shot into the gun, sparking. I said, let's go together. At this moment, the courageous breakthrough was like a flash. He pushed the old lonely man, and his inner self was short and deep, no longer a shadow. I am their shield. This growth has allowed him to grow from self-protection into a virgin, as refreshing as blood. In front of the top door, Ma Chao's smile came. Li Qiang, are you chasing me here? But the blue picture has been transmitted, and the high level will restart the plan. The door was locked and the buzzing bird was added. Jian Pain said in a low voice, I have a backdoor code, open. The teams merged in thoughtfully. The virus crisis is slow, but the final confrontation is imminent, and the high-level giant net opened, waiting to be tear apart. The rain hit the window, and the city's lights were shaking below. Li Qiang took a deep breath and pushed the door into the darkness. Ma Chao's shadow appeared like a ghost. Number of words, 1268. The door of the top server room slid open under Li Qiang's thrust, causing a low mechanical friction sound, like a giant gasp. The air inside is hot like a steamer, scattering the burnt plastic smell of the circuit board and the hinting chemical acid. The light lanterns are unstable at the top, casting a twisted shadow. Ma Chao stood in front of the central console, shaking in the blue light. His fingers stumbled on the keyboard, his right foot slightly limped, his eyes as fierce as a sleepy beast. Li Qiang, do you really think you'd win if you open this door? The virus blue picture has been encrypted and released. The high-level purification plan will swallow this city like a fog. His voice was ridiculous, and when he turned around, a piece of blue ink flashed across the cuff, reflected in the cold light of the screen. Li Qiang's gun was stable and straight, and the rain dripped from his sweater and smashed on the floor and made a fine reply. His heart beats like a drum, and his visual memory swept through the room, the buzzing on the wall, the hot waves were swinging, the red external sensor hidden under the console was slammed 0.8 seconds. Ma Chao's standing posture, his right index finger tapped lightly, that was the signal that activated the self-destruction. Ma Chao, the game is over. Your fingers are full of iron certificates from the river to this place. Blue pictures? We have entered the cloud backup, and I remember the high-level signatures, every plot. He said in a low voice, his calm and silenced, and a cold determination surged in his heart. Before, he would be self-hard and ignore the risks. Now, he glanced at the team behind him, and Xia and Yuhang's eyes gave him strength. This is the proof of growth. It is no longer a lonely shadow, but a light tower. Xiaoli was alert from the door, and the gun was swept over the shadows, and his voice was shaking and determined. I can see clearly the box you had silenced. When the green fog was sprayed, you still whispered the test was successful, and you were satisfied with the high level. It was not an accident. It was you who were fucked by your hands. Those passers-by coughed and fell to the ground, and you didn't even reply. Her verdict was like a sharp blade, piercing Ma Chao's disguise. As Avon covered his shoulders and approached the end of a platform, his fingers danced on the palm equipment. Brother, don't waste your time. My gold fingers came on the scene, the last layer of the monitoring network. Give me 30 seconds. His knocking sounded like rain, and the quantum simulation in his brain moved, filtering the encrypted wall. The screen is filled with waterfalls, red warning flashes, and the humming drama in the room. Ma Chao sneered and pressed the keyboard hard. It's too late. Trap activation, virus release system, nano fog will swallow you first. As he finished speaking, green fog sprayed out from the mouth of the wind, sticking to the glue, and it radiated with blue light when it spreads, burning when it touches the skin, and the pungent chemical burnt smell in the air. The smoke came like a living thing, and the first thing he had to do was to snort his voice, and his clothes were squirting. Don't die, this is the condensed version of V28. He shouted, and the brain predicted the path of the fog. The spiral spreads, gathering from the opening to the center, and the concentration increases by 5% per second. Xiao Wu, seal the door. Aerospace, shut the pen. Li Qiang roared, and the leader's words were like iron smashed down. He swung to the console, watching the memory of locking Ma Chao's action. The lightness of his finger was a crack of fear. The team understood the tacitly as if the wheels were biting. Xiao Wang rushed to the door, blocked the gap with her backpack, and the green fog was blocked by most of the green fog. She coughed and gasped. The fog is sticky, like fire burning. But I stopped. The spacecraft rolled to the wall and inserted the decoder, the quantum lock, cracking. It's done. The valve closed, and the fog concentration dropped. His voice was filled with pain, and blood on his shoulder dripped, but he didn't stop. In the crisis, this reversal was like a refreshing blow. Li Qiang's prediction combined with the intrusion of the aerospace dissolved the fatal threat and let the green fog slowly dissipate like a receding tide. Ma Chao stepped back and his face turned pale. How do you know the location of the valve? Impossible. Li Qiang approached, his gun was on his chest, and his memory instantly pulled out the database. Xia Yan's verb and finger marks matched the blue barcode of the box around Jiang, which matched 99.8% of the pressure marks on the server. Ma Chao's spiral pattern, from the operating table to this, was fully certified as a practical person. Reverse, Ma Chao. Your suspicion has changed from a scientist to a butcher. Xia Yu's goal. You operate the remote control syringe and activate the green fog test. Finger marking, the traces on this console, the oily reflection on the edges are the traces you activate the self-destruction. High-level emails, we have exposed the signature of the Minister of the Three Kingdoms, the full picture of the chemical plan, virus synthesis, used to clear the I&E efficiency zone and cover up the financial black hole. It's not out of control, it's intentional. Li Qiang's voice was like thunder, and every sentence was like climaxes, and the picture in the brain reappeared. The full picture of the source of the virus emerged. Ma Chao was testing ejaculation around the river, creating the illusion of accidents, and using a high-level sealed mouth. This combination is like electric light and stone fire, which reverses the entire suspicious link, making Ma Chao's explanation like paper paste. Ma Chao sat down, trembling with a beard. You monster's eyes. The committee will sniff, and the whole city will be buried. But his eyes were gone, and the team's victory was like a wave, and it was refreshing. The perfect fit between the verdict and fingers not only convicted of crimes, but also tore the high-level verbal face. Li Qiang felt relieved, and the fear of the old day, the powerlessness on his wife and daughter's hospital bed, was like a scattering of smoke. He grew from a lonely detective to a leader facing terror. He no longer retreats, but stands up. No, we have us in this city. Aerospace, uploading full monitoring, source confirmation. V28 is synthesized from this server. Nano is self-organized to allow it to spread invisibly. High-level standard blue pictures, fully exposed. At this moment, the gun outside the door was making a big sound, and his feet were like thunder. Jian Payne's voice exploded from the communication device. Li Qiang, persist. Official support has arrived. I brought a special team and blocked the terminal building. I have all the internal ghosts, and a high-level arrest warrant has been issued. Minister of the Mainland, we have captured the secret book outside. The green box is burned, but we have the backup of the virus blue map. The door exploded. Jian Payne led more than 10 armed police to insert it, and the gun was facing Ma Chao, and the air smelled hot medicine was sniffed. He stretched out his hand with regret on his face. Li Qiang, I'm sorry. From now on, I will ship with you. All support will be opened, airdrop of detoxifiers, and city locks to turn on the defense. Li Qiang pointed his head and held Jian Payne's hand, and his strength was heavier. You will start with the punishment now. Take Ma Chao away and slap him in full. The armed police stepped forward and locked Ma Chao with his hand. He roared and said, You won this battle, but the committee's network. He didn't finish his words, and he slammed him with a gun. The team gasped and merged. Xia Yu wiped his sweat, his eyes lit up. We did it. The verdict was exposed, and the truth came out. Yu Heng grinned and pushed his eyeglasses. It's great. The full picture of the monitoring is confirmed. The source of the virus is dead. The high-level play is over. But the attack was short and the communication device responded again. Jian Payne's deputy said hurriedly, warning. Ma Chao's fortress activated, the underground fortress of Pudong Old Port. When he remotely activated the self-destruction and collapsed. There was the final virus database inside, the green was deadly, and the elite guards were in place. The city's hot area is expanding, and we have to break into it, destroying the source. Li Qiang's visual memory flashed over map. The old port fortress is hidden under the waste ship, with a high security layer, and the entrance is the tunnel at the bottom of the river. The fear is coming like green fog. The final conflict, the virus threatens the whole city, and the fate of the wife and daughter is in trouble. But he pushed it and turned to the team. Jian Payne, bring the team to follow. Aerospace, open the tunnel road. Xia, your eyes are the key. Any abnormality, shout out. We break into Ma Chao's fortress and end it all. The rain hit the top of the jeep's car, urging it as a war drum. They rushed out of the terminal building, rushed straight to Pudong Old Port. The wind of the river is blowing, the waves sway the dam, and the smell of fishy smell is heavy. The entrance to the fortress is hidden at the bottom of the river, with iron gates shaking, and green light rolling out from the gap, like a giant eye. Giant Pain's support team merged, the armed police scattered with guns, and the unmanned planes buzzed up. Aerospace scanned the car, the road is open. But there are many traps in it, laser network and differentiation, all of which are Ma Chao's backup. Xia Yan took a deep breath, I'm ready. Li Qiang, leader. Li Qiang got off the car, gun was loaded, and the visual memory locked entrance, the gate welding thread was easy, and the pressure felt should be 0.5 meters away. He kicked open, the iron door creaked down, dark as if it was opened. The team rushed in, their feet sank in the tunnel, and the water droplets hit the ground like clockwork. The green fog spreads invisibly, and the burning hot waves swept far away, and the change of guard has woken up. Ma Chao's fortress was waiting for the final conflict, and the fate of the city was shaking in the gunfire. Terms, 1246. The air in the tunnel was as sticky as rotten fruit, and the green fog slowly emerged, carrying a pungent chemical sour smell, which made Li Qiang's throat tighten under his mask. The water droplets fell from the top of the head, and the sound of the slam drifted in the narrow space, like a bell in the blink of an eye. The footsteps were deep and the breath of the armed police team rose and fell behind him. Giant Pain said with a low voice, distribute the warning, skin the heat source every 10 meters. Ma Chao's fortress is not a ruin, it is his nest. Li Qiang head, his memory was like a thunderbolt, capturing the shadows of each crack and each turning angle, the finger marks on the wall, fresh spiral marks, and the oily edges reflect blue light, Ma Chao's hand pen, which proves that this is his last fortress. Suddenly, a buzzing bird was buzzing in front of him, and the laser net popped out from the wall, and the red light intersected like a spider's woven, sizzling the ground and burning the air. The first beam of light hit Li Qiang's shoulders, and the hot waves made his clothes charred. He suddenly fell down, and his brain was predicting the way, the grid is 1.2 seconds apart. Xia Wu, right side, aerospace, power supply. Xia Wu rolled to the side, the rain mixed with mud and covered her legs. She shot the sensor on the wall. In the flash, sparks were 4 times. I held the side. Her voice was breathing, and from the fear of the target, it had turned into a reliable fire point. Astronaut knelt on the ground, the equipment on his palms inserted into the wall, sweat beads slipped down his eyes. Quantum lock, it's done for me, it's done. The power supply is short-circuited, the network is closed. The laser stopped abruptly, and the room was dark again, leaving only the green dynamic blue light. Fuck well, Li Qiang stood up panting, patted Yuang's shoulder, and felt warm inside. The tacit understanding of this team is not overnight, but an iron chain tempered by crisis. He has always been in touch with his partner since before, and his partner is exhausted. Now, every time he resolves, he feels the weight on his shoulders become strength. Continue, the core room is ahead. Giant Pain, your team blocks the back road. The passage is as close as the head, and a steel door is full of collars, with clear finger marks on the handle. Li Qiang put on gloves and touched them, and his memory was frozen in an instant, spiral patterns, right thumb, and matched the marks on the edge of the river. Ma Chao was in the head. Open the door. Giant Pain pointed, the blaster used by the armed police trembled lightly, the door slipped open, and there was a spacious underground castle, the operating tables are lined, the screen wall is rolling, the central cultivation is buzzing, and the green liquid moves like a heartwarming stalk in the glass tube. The air is hot and the pungent and bloody disinfectant makes people's stomach tumbling. Ma Chao stood in front of the cultivation, gray and awesome, and his eyes were sunken as he turned around. Li Qiang, have you chased me here? But the virus database has been activated, and it will take 5 minutes to destroy it. The green fog will swallow Shanghai, so you will be buried with you. Li Qiang approached his gun, his eyes locked in every detail of Ma Chao, blue ink on the cuffs, limping tiny veins, and new fingers on the keyboard. It's over, Ma Chao. I can see through your responsibilities from the beginning to the end. He took a deep breath, and his memory was like a flood, recreating all the traces, spiral marks on the street corners, blue bar containers on the river, blood sprays in the industrial area, and diary screens of Qingpu base. Everything is spelled into the brain and formed a complete picture. The source of the virus is not an accident, but a deliberate synthesis. Let me reappear for you. Last Friday evening, you operated a remote control syringe in the alleys of the river, activate the V28NM self-assembly fog, and test the spreading path. The box cracks are an illusion, and you will lose the low-key high-level treatment when you abandon it, creating the illusion of natural explosion. Fingerprint matching, street corner pattern matching your right thumb. The scar mark on this cultivation carcass is left by your adjustment. Completeness, the committee will use the virus to purify the inefficient area, clear the public, cover up the financial black hole, and rebuild and sell it to the financial group. The signature of the Minister of the Three Kingdoms is all on the cloud blueprint. You are not a victim, but an executor. Ma Chao's face turned pale. He took a step back and hit the operating table. The green liquid tube shook and made a low bird. Nonsense. That was an out-of-control accident, and the high-level forced me. I'm just a scientist. His voice was trembling, and his eyes were hiding. The last word was as fragile as paper. Li Qiang sneered, and his visual memory captured the slight blinking frequency, 3 times a second, which is beyond ordinary people and is a typical entitlement signal. The slander is broken. Your blink of an eye sells you. When you escape from the industrial area, you are not limping as heavy as a slut. Xia Yan's verdict, she hides behind the trash can, and sees you press the activation button with your hands. The fog moves and dissipates, not out of control, but covers after a successful test. Reasoning foam, high level is not forcing you, it is instructive. The virus is not accident, it is part of the plan. Be aware, otherwise the green fog will swallow yourself first. Xia Yan stepped forward, staring at Ma Chao, and his voice was as if he was iron. I see with my eyes. When you put the box, the green fog stuck to the skin of passers-by and burned. They coughed and fell to the ground, and you didn't even look back. Nanny is set up on the blue bar, and you whispered, preparing points to start. It's not an accident, it's a murder. I recorded the verdict, and the whole city will hear it. Her words were like the verbal sermon of the verdict, and he stabbed Ma Chao very much. He sat on the ground, trembling with a beard. It's over, the ministers of the committee are all involved. The blue pictures were conveyed to them, but you. Aerospace laughed, pushed his eyes and danced on the equipment. Sure? Brother, it's so naive. I've been penetrated into the fortress system. The back door of the quantum is opened. The screen wall was flashing, and the data was like a waterfall. His golden fingers moved in his brain, filtering the firewall, and locking the broadcast channel. The truth is being broadcast. The city's monitoring, social network, and advertising screens are all connected. Listen, Shanghai citizens, the source of the virus is revealed. V28 is a human-made synthesis, high-level purification plan, Ma Chao executed, and signed by the Minister of the Mainland. Certification link, finger pattern comparison, diary record, target verdict. All exposed. Screen switching, Jiangbei reappearance, blue picture scan, Xia's recording. Outside the fortress, the screen of the city lit up, panic turned into anger, and the streets said, the truth? High level sells us. As if the current was swept across the back of the aerospace, he turned his head and grinned at Li Qiang. It's done. When the system collapsed, I turned back, the green fog valve closed, and the virus database was locked. The crisis resolved, but Ma Chao suddenly rushed towards the laser gun hidden beside him, aiming at Li Qiang. Go to die. The high-tech weapon was activated, and the energy beam was accumulating. Giant Pain shouted, and rushed out of the side wing. A gun hit Ma Chao's wrist, shot and killed his hand, and the blood fog was sprayed. It's so. You bastard. He pressed Ma Chao, and his hand was clicked on him, and his face was filled with regret. Li Qiang, I'll arrest him. I'll take all the things about the ghosts. The co-conference of the committee. I have already positioned, the secretary of the minister, who caught two in the outer terminal building, and the evidence of the financial black hole was also uploaded. The official turned around, and the general ordered the investigation of the high level. Li Qiang gasped and stood firmly, his visual memory still rumbling in his brain. All the lines were as complete as the picture was, and the whole picture of the Yin was as scattered as the river fog. The green fog receded, the cultivation of the veins stopped, the fortress was silent, and only the broadcasting sound of the screen was left. Deep inside, a warm current surged up and the electricity changed like a break. He recalled his wife and daughter's hospital bed, the slight eyes separated from the glass, recalled the loneliness staring at the chaotic street from the apartment window, recalled the shadowy days of solving the case by himself. The guilt of the ironclad locking him, making him timid. But now, saving not only the family, but also the city and this team. Xiaoyi's courage, the wisdom of aerospace, and Jian Payne's guilt all turned into his power. "We win," he murmured, with a difficult gentleness in his voice, patting Xia's shoulder. "It's not me, it's us. The virus's threat has stopped, and the high-level network has been torn open. My daughter will be able to eat my father's sweet and sour pork ribs soon." Xiaoli wiped the corners of his eyes and smiled. "Li Qiang, you have changed. From a cold-faced detective to, our brother." Yu Hang pushed the lens and said excitedly, "It's so cool. The data is fully cleaned, and the city's hot area is decreasing. Jian Payne, take him out and check in the interview room." Jian Payne pointed his head and pulled Ma Chao up. "Let's go, scientist. Your purification plan has become your prison." The team withdrew from the fortress, the wind was coming towards the river, the rain turned smaller, and the city's lights were lit below. The broadcast voice came from afar, and the public was clamored, "The truth. High level quit." But the communication was light. Jian Payne's deputy reported, "Li Qiang, video link of the general manager. The high-level arrest operation started, the minister has been detained, and the committee will be online. Virus detoxifiers, airdrops throughout the city." But Ma Chao's backup blue picture is left. The last hidden spot is in the old laboratory at the bottom of the Huangpu River. "We have confirmed that it will end all." Li Qiang looked at the river, the waves slapped the dam, and the smell of fish he smelled sniffed. The inner soul changes like a tide, from fear to fearlessness, from loneliness to fostering. Save the joy of family and co-star with the city's movement. He turned to the team, the last hit. "Let's go, the bottom of the river, wait for us." The jeep engine was flying, and the tires were crushed over the mud. In the night, the round dawn appeared. The night wind on the Huangpu River is as gentle as heavy as a slight roar. The rain has stopped, and only the water surface ripples slammed the dam and whispered a low murmur. The jeep's tires were crushed over the moist asphalt road, and the engine sounded in the empty streets. Li Qiang held the direction plate tightly and stared at the hidden river fog in front of him. In the rear view, Jian Payne's police team was in a tight position, and the red-blue lights were as stable as the city's sway. Xiaoli sat in the auxiliary, and the proof bag in her backpack was still shaking. She took a deep breath. "The last blow, Li Qiang. That riverbed test room is Ma Chao's starting point, right? If you destroy it, the truth will be complete." Yu Hang knocked on the equipment in the back seat, the wound on his shoulders. "It has been simply wrapped, and the bloodstains have not affected his rhythm. Data shows, the blue picture is hidden there. High-level backup server, encrypted by the mainland. But I have opened the front door, and the broadcast is ready-made a key, and I have heard it all over the city." Li Qiang pointed his head and slighted on the corners of his mouth. The heart is as clear as the river, from staring at the chaotic loneliness in front of the apartment window to the determination to the team's determination. The growth along the way is like a vine, deeply rooted. He is no longer the shadow detective who only solves the case by his eyes, but a righteous guardian taking responsibility for his family, his team, and this collapsed city. The video of the wife and daughter is still flashing in the brain, the daughter's smile and the wife's fist clenched. "Come on, Dad." That power made him push the old days fear. Yes, the last hit. Jian Payne, blocking the river, the armed police team was preparing diving equipment. We entered the tunnel at the bottom of the river so that the high-level slaughter party would run away. The entrance of the old experiment room is hidden in the head of the secret code under the river embankment. The iron gate is stained with spots, and the green light is hidden from the water, awakening like a sleeping poisonous snake. The armed police deployed quickly, diving lights cut the river water, bubbles floating up and sucking the scattered and fishy moisture. Li Qiang wore an oxygen mask and watched the memories swept over the water, the whirlpool of the tide. The welding of the gate was easy, and everything was predicted to be the best approach. Team follow the crowd. Xiaoyu, your proof is a weapon, aerospace, data is a sharp blade, giant pain, the punishment begins here. They rushed into the river, cold and bone like a thorn, but no one retreated. In the tunnel, the walls are covered with algae, and the green fog remains like a floating spirit, sticking to the touch. After half an hour of traveling, the exit steel door floated, and the finger marks on the handle were clear, spiral marks, leaving Ma Chao's stay. Li Qiang pried open the door, and the water splashed up, and they climbed up the platform, lifted the masks and breathed. The indoor lights are dim and yellow, the operating table is covered with dust, the cultivation of the buzzing bird is low, and the green liquid flows slowly in the tube. The air was hot, and the chemical acid was straightened to diamond his nostrils, and he heard a sound from a distance. Who is there? The commission's order will destroy everything. A man in a suitcase appeared from the shadow, holding a laser gun, and his face was white. Minister Shin's secret book. Xia Yan recognized at a glance, it's him. He wiped the blue code with his hands. The confrontation exploded. The secretary was shot, and the red light aimed at Li Qiang. Detective Li? You are dead. Ma Chao has already helped, and the high-level purification plan is just the beginning. After the virus blue picture is destroyed, we will reopen. The financial group will buy orders. This city will be reborn. His voice trembled, his eyes were flashing, revealing panic. Li Qiang's side avoided the first laser, and the heat beam rubbed over the wall, and the scorched marks burst into smoke. His brain visual memory is like a machine. The secret book stands slightly, the gun is offset by 0.3 degrees, the server tower under the operating table, the heat source movement, the blue picture is still being transmitted. Restart? Your hand is broken from the head. Li Qiang growled, and shot his wrist with his backhand, and the laser gun flew, the blood fog sprayed, and the fishy smell smeared his nose. Xia, on the certificate. Aerospace, block the transmission. Xia Yan rushed forward and the gun was on the chest of the secret book, and his voice was thunderous. I saw you selling boxes on the runway. Green fogs are moving, burning passers-by. You still whispered the minister's plan cannot be stopped. V-28NM is self-organized, not an accident, but a high-level murder tool. Financial black hole, clearing the money for civilians to rebuild and sell money. It's recorded, and the whole city will hear it. Her eyes were fixed, from the panic of the street-eye attackers to the sound of righteousness at this moment, growing like a torchlight. The secretary sat down, his face turned pale. How do you know about the black hole? The minister will snatch it. Giant Pain pulled it from behind and locked it with his hand. The jack? I'll call it first. The committee's meeting record, I've reserved it. The signature of the minister of the mainland, the attached virus blueprint. The crime will start with the arrest of you. The climax came like a tide. Li Qiang approached the server tower, touched the keyboard with his fingers, and freezed all details in his visual memory, the data stream of the blue map, the cracks of the encryption sequence. Reverse, high level. Your corruption begins to break from the finger mark. He turned to Aerospace, broadcast, now. Aerospace grinned, equipment buzzed, gold fingers moved at high speed, simulated quantum paths in the brain, filtering the final firewall. One key is open. The city's screen, broadcast, social network, the truth is blown up. The screen opens, Jiangbing reappears, Ma Chao's diary, Xia's verbs, finger matching, and email links of financial black holes. All exposed. The confession of the secret book is recounted. Purify the plan, clear the inefficient area, viruses are tools. The city's advertising screen lights up, and the public's call comes from the communication device. high-level step down. The truth is coming. Refreshing as electric shock, Li Qiang's whole body, it turned out, high-level corruption was like glass shattering, and the committee's network collapsed. The arrest warrant of the minister of the mainland was instantly released, and the TV screen was switched. The general manager announced, the source of the virus is to investigate the team of the hero Li Qiang, and the rumor is revealed. The detoxifiers are distributed throughout the city, and the closure is lifted. The green fog valve closed under the influence of the aerospace, the cultivation of the veins stopped, and the virus database was locked. The secretary lowered his head and convicted, "Minister, is all over." Jian Payne held him with a complicated look. "I almost did this way you are. But now, reconstruction starts with me." Police resources are fully open and order is restored. The team retreated from the bottom of the river, and the river water slapped the hull, and the waves blew a fresh smell. The sun shone out, and on the skyscrapers in Shanghai, neon lights were lit. People on the street took off their masks and opened the window and shouted. The virus was controlled, the heat subsided, the infection rate dropped, the detoxifier fell like rain, and the sirens of the medical car turned into a joy chapter to save Sun. Xiaoyan commends, the government issued a city hero stamp. She smiled in front of the news lens. "I am just an eyewitness, but the Li Qiang team makes me brave." Jian Payne rebuilds order and special investigation teams have expanded. He patted Li Qiang on the shoulder. "Boy, from now on, you are our leader. The police owe you a drink." Li Qiang drove back to the city center, and aerospace laughed in the back seat. "Brother, data broadcasts have saved the whole city." "My brain, your eyes are invincible." Xiaolui said, "The team is full, we win." Deep inside, Li Qiang's power shines like the dawn. From the arrogance of a genius detective to the warmth of a righteous guardian, he learns to trust, protect and share. Guilt turned into strength. The wife and daughter's ward video link. The daughter rushed into the mother's ward and laughed and shouted, "Dad, sweet and sour pork ribs. The virus is gone, we will go home." The wife said with a gaze, "Strong, you are a hero. The whole city said that you deserve respect." The car parked in front of the apartment. Xiang pulled up the shadow. Li Qiang got off the car, picked up his daughter, and held his wife's hand warmly. The city's struggle has recovered, and the lights are as bright as the galaxy. From the darkness of the virus to the dawn of hope, he reflected, growth is not a miracle of the golden finger, but a choice of every step, standing firm for the family, making sounds for the city, and moving forward for the team. This rescue is like a river flowing long and never dry up. Number of words, 1248.